Transmigrating into the Male Supporting Characters X Chapter 108 to Chapter 120. The waiting time for the new chapter was unprecedentedly long. At first, Xianxia kept refreshing, but now, she refreshed every few minutes. She was so sleepy that her head nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Qingjun's face appeared in her mind, and she suddenly felt half awake. After such a long time, she didn't know how everyone in the other world was doing. Xianxia felt a little uneasy. When she came to this world, it was noon. She didn't know if it was day or night for Qingjun and the others. Qingjun should be fine. Her empty stomach began to torture her nerves because of hunger. Xianxia sighed. She only hoped that everything would go according to her expectations. Just as she had been waiting for a long time, the screen finally showed that the author had updated 3 chapters a minute ago. Fortunately, her account still had balance. Xianxia quickly clicked on the latest chapter. She tensed up and quickly browsed through it. Here, the author explained the background again. The female lead, Su Biying, and the male lead, Guyu, were childhood sweethearts. However, in her previous life, Guyu only had brotherly feelings for her. If it weren't for Su Biying's hard work and struggle, she wouldn't have been able to reach the end. The environment she grew up in made her insecure, emotionally sensitive, suspicious, and doubtful. It was easy for her to deny herself. To her, marriage was like a life-saving straw, but it was also easy for her to hurt others and herself. At the same time, before the female lead was reborn, she heard that the white moonlight Qingjun had been stabbed by someone and was in critical condition. At this time, Su Biying loved and hated Qingjun. She only felt happy, but she couldn't help crying. When she saw this, Xianxia sucked in a breath of cold air. She suddenly remembered the curse-like words Su Biying had once said to her. Was there really such a thing? When she thought of Qingjun being hurt in a world she couldn't touch, Xianxia couldn't help but feel worried. Xianxia pursed her lips tightly and slowly opened the next chapter. This chapter was about Guyu and Su Biying's married life. At first, the two of them were in love with each other. Gradually, Guyu's work became busier and busier. He became popular with many people. No matter how gentle and considerate Su Biying was, the conversation between the two of them was limited to trivial matters. Su Biying began to feel anxious. Coupled with the fact that she couldn't conceive a child no matter how hard she tried, small frictions began to appear between the two of them. However, every time, she was the one who was overly emotional and unreasonable. At first, Guyu would tolerate it, but gradually, Guyu became cold. He learned to kill time with work instead of coming home to face endless suspicion and worry. 3 years after their marriage, Guyu finally filed for divorce. Su Biying, who was deeply exhausted, finally agreed to this decision. She took her suitcase and left the cage. The moment she stepped out of the door, she felt both reluctant and relaxed. She stood in place. After living for so many years, this was the first time she started to think about what her next step should be. Su Biying woke up and found herself lying on a hospital bed. Everything was just a dream. Childhood sweetheart Guyu had been married for many years. The two of them were deeply in love. Qingjun, the white moonlight, was also rescued and was recuperating in the hospital. At this time, Su Biying found out that Qingjun was actually the boss of Jiaqing. In the two worlds, she compared herself and worried about gains and losses, but in the end, she didn't get anything. She lay on the hospital bed in a daze. The story was still going on, but it was about Su Biying's future. She needed to decide it herself. The article was clearly over, but the author wrote the words "never over" in the last line of the last chapter. Jiaqing. The receptionist called several times, hesitated for a moment, and then transferred the phone to Tunan's secretary, Wen Qian. Wen Qian picked up the phone. He was puzzled at first, but after hearing the other party's voice, his eyes suddenly widened. He pushed his chair away and stood there in disbelief. The assistant beside him was shocked. Did something happen? Nothing. No, something happened. Where's Tunan? No, look for the boss. The situation was urgent. Wen Qian had never been so flustered before, even in the biggest crisis he had ever encountered. There was a meeting in the conference room. Fu Zicheng was talking nonstop in front of the PowerPoint, his saliva splashing everywhere. Just as he was about to show the next PowerPoint, the door was pushed open with a bang. Secretary Wen Qian stood at the door. Even Tu Nan, who was distracted, was shocked. Xianxia? I just received a call from the police station. What's wrong? We didn't evade taxes, did we? Tu Nan's brain circuit was very strange. Wen Qian didn't have time to glare at him and tell him not to talk nonsense. She looked at Qingjun. The man sitting by the window looked at her expressionlessly. The police station said, she swallowed her dry throat and her heart was beating like a drum. There's a woman who claims to be Qingjun's wife waiting for him to take her home. Tell me the address. Boss? Boss, slow down. Don't run. After getting the address, Qingjun didn't even bother to put on his coat. He picked up his phone and ran towards the door. Tu Nan had known him for so many years, but he had never seen him run in places other than the gym and the playground. He called out to Qingjun and told him not to rush, but Qingjun disappeared in the blink of an eye. The underground parking lot was silent. The driver was dozing off. Suddenly, the glass window was knocked twice, and he was startled awake. Qingjun was standing outside the window. He said in a low and hurried voice, "Get out of the car." Boss? There's no need to pull out the key. Oh. Okay. The driver quickly got out of the driver's seat and saw Qingjun quickly get into the driver's seat. He started the engine and the car sped out of the parking lot. His speed was extremely fast, and as he spun around in the parking lot, the tires made ear-piercing squeaking sounds on the ground. It looked extremely thrilling. The driver was scared out of his wits. He called out to Qingjun from afar, "Remember to put on your seatbelt. Don't drive so fast." A snowstorm trapped the entire city. Although the snow had stopped, the road was still muddy and slippery. The cars on the road tried to slow down as much as possible. However, a black private car was obviously faster than others. It even dared to overtake in this kind of weather. The drivers who were overtaken were all cursing this person for not wanting to live anymore. At an empty traffic light intersection, a black private car was driving past. At this moment, an accident happened. A red car actually ran the red light and quickly drove to the opposite side. Perhaps it didn't see that there was another person at the intersection. The red car quickly braked just as it was about to hit the other person. The snowy road was too slippery. The road was sprinkled with salt, but it still couldn't stabilize the car. It slammed into the other person at an extremely fast speed. The black private car made a sharp turn. Bang! Wan Qiuqiu sat in her seat. A few young policemen sat beside her. They looked excited. I really like Jiaqing games. God, I really didn't expect this. What's your plan for the new game? I heard that this time, it's going to be a Western fantasy game. Just thinking about it makes me feel so cool. I actually got to meet the legendary Jiaqing boss's wife. My luck is too good. The few of them chattered so much that Wan Qiuqiu felt dizzy. The policeman who brought her back couldn't stand it anymore and asked them to return to their seats. Wan Qiuqiu had been patiently waiting for a long time. According to the usual time, even if she hailed a car on the road, she should have arrived long ago. When she received the phone call, Tu Nan almost cried. A grown man talking with a sobbing voice was both funny and heart-wrenching. He said that Qingjun was already on the way and asked Wan Qiuqiu to wait for a while. However, after waiting for a long time, she still didn't receive any news from Qingjun. Could it be that he took the wrong road? For some reason, Wan Qiuqiu had a bad feeling in her heart. It was snowing so heavily today. If Qingjun was anxious and accidentally got into an accident, it would be terrible. She had to find a way to contact Qingjun. At this moment, a policeman who was looking down at his phone said, "There was another accident at the intersection of East Street." Ah? How is it? Did anything happen? Who knows? These people don't even know how to slow down on a snowy day. What are they thinking? Sigh. Wan Qiuqiu's face was pale. What color was the car involved in the accident? I think it was a black Land Rover. I saw Xiaosu's post. It seems like he's still processing it. How far away is it? She asked anxiously. The other party couldn't help but look up at her. It's not far. Just walk a few hundred meters to the right. Hey, where are you going? Xianxia's legs went soft. She selfishly hoped that the person wasn't Qingjun. Her mind was blank. She only knew to rush out of the police station. Only when she saw the license plate number of the car at the scene of the accident could she calm down. Please don't, please don't. Xianxia sobbed and prayed as she ran. She ran out of the gate. The starry street lights made the night hazy and she couldn't see the road clearly. At this moment, her vision suddenly blurred. She bumped into the person who came. The other party staggered and almost fell. Both of them took a step back before they could see each other's faces clearly in the hazy night. For Xianxia, it was only a day that she hadn't seen Qingjun. At this moment, she still didn't know that Qingjun had been waiting in this world for 7 months and 5 days, alone and holding on to a hopeless hope. He froze on the spot. His body was stiff and his expression was frighteningly stiff. His pair of eyes fell on Xianxia as if they were glued and couldn't move away. The surroundings were silent. Chung, before Xianxia could finish calling his name, she saw the other party take a step forward. She was pulled by a strong force and bumped into the other party's arms. He hugged her tightly in his arms and squeezed the last breath in his lungs. It was so tight that Xianxia almost suffocated. She was almost out of breath, but she subconsciously comforted Qingjun's emotions first. She didn't expect Qingjun to be so scared. His arms were trembling. She didn't know if it was because the weather was too cold or because his emotions were fluctuating too much. Xianxia could only gently stroke his back to reassure him. The embrace was familiar and warm. It had the unique scent of Qingjun. It made Xianxia's tense nerves relax a little. The after effect was that her nose was sour and she couldn't hold back her tears. Xianxia's eyes were hazy with tears and she almost cried out loud. I thought you were in a car accident. You almost scared me to death. Do you know that I've been letting my imagination run wild in the police station? I thought you didn't know me anymore. Big tears rolled down her cheeks. In just a short while, Qingjun's clothes were wet from her tears. He endured in silence as he listened to Xianxia crying and complaining in his arms. The soaked clothes stuck to his chest like a fire burning his skin. He only wanted to tighten his arms so that there was no space between the two of them, but he was afraid that he would hurt her. The few policemen who came out saw the two of them hugging each other and smiled tacitly. They signaled to each other and quietly returned to the house to leave some space for the two of them to be alone. Xianxia was still crying. There was a moment when she really thought that she was going to lose Qingjun. In the past, they talked about how carefree they were and how they lived their own lives. If one of them had a sweetheart, they would peacefully break up and get a divorce. They would even give each other their blessings. But now, if Qingjun dared to have other thoughts, she would kill this dog of a man. Xianxia had never realized how important Qingjun was in her heart. She sobbed a few times. At this moment, a drop of viscous liquid fell on her forehead and slowly slid down. Drip. Another drop. Xianxia's heart thumped. She quickly asked Qingjun to let go of her hand, but Qingjun didn't let go as if he was deaf. Xianxia was so angry that she almost cried. She quickly pulled his arm and pulled herself away from Qingjun's embrace. Facing the dim light, Xianxia wiped the wet liquid from her forehead. When she took a closer look, it was actually blood. She looked up in a panic. Qingjun's forehead had been injured at some point. His fair forehead was smeared with blood and it was sliding down his good-looking eyebrows. Both sides of his cheeks were stained with blood. It was a ghastly sight. Xianxia was frightened. Why are you? Qingjun. Qingjun. Just as she called out to him, his body swayed and he fell unconscious in the muddy snow. Qingjun. Xianxia cried until she ran out of tears. Several police officers reacted in time and helped Xianxia pull Qingjun to the hospital. As soon as they arrived at the hospital, they were immediately sent for emergency treatment. Xianxia was on the verge of breaking down. She tried her best to stop crying, but she couldn't wipe her tears dry. When Tu Nan and the rest arrived, they saw Wan Xiaoqiu still wearing her police uniform. Her hands and face were covered in blood. She was squatting by the wall and crying. This scene was as miserable as it could be. "Sister-in-law, I finally found you. How is the boss now?" I don't know, he lost a lot of blood." Wan Qiuqiu cried until she was out of breath. She had already thought that if Qingjun died, she would be buried with him. I don't want to live anymore. If he dies, live well." A slightly hoarse man's voice sounded behind her. It was Qingjun. Wan Qiuqiu's mind went blank. Her crying stopped abruptly. There were still mottled tears on her face. She looked a little silly. She raised her head in a daze and saw Qingjun walk in front of her. He squatted down and looked at her silently. There was a piece of gauze on his forehead. The bleeding had stopped and he looked fine. The doctor stood at the side and said, "The impact of the car accident is not serious. You must wear a seat belt next time. Also, you fainted because of low blood sugar and some malnutrition. Pay more attention to your diet." He was actually malnourished. It was actually because of such a reason. What was she worried about? Wan Qiuqiu wanted to be angry, but she also wanted to laugh. In a daze, she began to cry again. She was not a person who liked to cry, but she didn't know what was wrong with her today. She felt like crying whenever she saw Qingjun. The ups and downs of her emotions made her unable to control her emotions. The two of them squatted face to face. Wan Qiuqiu was a little embarrassed and turned her face away. She didn't want Qingjun to see her tears. Qingjun stared at her for a long time. His face suddenly enlarged. As the little secretary exclaimed, he stretched out an arm and held the back of Wan Qiuqiu's head. He tiptoed slightly and kissed her lips. Wan Qiuqiu thought that she must be crazy. Her heart was beating so fast that her whole body was trembling when Qingjun kissed her. If it weren't for Tu Nan and the others who were still standing aside, she was afraid that her whole body would be in a daze. Tu Nan, Wen Qian, Fu Zicheng, Jiao Fan, and Elder Meng were all standing in the corridor of the hospital. There was only one question in their hearts, and that was where Wan Qiuqiu had gone. Why would Wan Qiuqiu disappear from this world for 7 whole months without a single trace? No matter how hard they tried to find connections, they couldn't find any news about her. Now, Wan Qiuqiu suddenly appeared in the police station, wearing thin summer clothes. If it weren't for the fact that she was standing in front of them, they would almost think that they had seen a ghost. Wan Qiuqiu's reaction was more intense than theirs. When she heard that she had disappeared for 7 months, she first stared blankly and was stunned. Then she realized something and carefully turned her head to look at Qingjun. Qingjun, who was standing next to her, had no expression on his face. He just held her hand tightly and didn't let go for a second. She couldn't believe how Qingjun had waited for her for 7 months without any news and without any hope. 7 months. And she had only waited for half a day, and it was so unbearable that she almost collapsed. No wonder she always felt that he had lost weight. When they hugged, she could clearly feel his spine. Wan Qiuqiu was very sad. "So where did you go? Boss is about to collapse. We thought you." "Bah. As long as you're fine." Wan Qiuqiu's answer was vague. I went to a distant place." As soon as she said that, she was silent for a moment. After thinking about it, she felt that her words were even more strange. Sure enough, the expressions of the others changed. They began to wonder if Wan Qiuqiu had come back from the dead. They looked at Wan Qiuqiu and wanted to say something. Wan Qiuqiu said, "Anyway, I won't leave again. You can rest assured." Especially Qingjun. Her promise did not make Qingjun loosen his clenched fists. The others looked at each other. They wanted to ask what was going on, but Wan Qiuqiu didn't want to explain, so they didn't continue to ask. "All right, it's good that you know to come back." Elder Meng heaved a long sigh of relief and winked half-jokingly. "There's a lot of work piled up. You should go back to work after a few days of rest." "All right. Everyone has worked hard. Thank you." Wan Qiuqiu was touched and smiled at him. Everyone who was able to rush here today was worried about her safety. She was very grateful that there were still so many people in this world who cared about her. When everyone looked at her, their eyes were filled with concern and gentleness. They did not question her because of Xianxia's vague words, which made Xianxia, who was already in an emotional sensitive period, almost burst into tears again. When they reached the entrance of the hospital, Tu Nan suddenly reacted and asked, "Boss car was towed away by a tow truck, right? Don't call for a taxi, I'll send you back." If Xianxia had known that Tu Nan's sports car was so flashy, she would probably have rejected it. Everyone else drove back to their own homes. Secretary Wen Qian sat in the passenger seat, while Xianxia and Qingjun sat in the back. She saw with her own eyes that Tu Nan helped the secretary fasten her seatbelt. The action between the two of them was ambiguous and intimate, clearly not like working partners. Xianxia was shocked. "You," Tu Nan said, "I told you, she definitely likes me." "Ouch, don't hit me, I was wrong. Wen Qian's pretty face turned red, and he stared coldly at Tu Nan. "If you want to kneel on the remote control, you can continue to talk nonsense." No. Tu Nan quickly waved his hand. Back in this world, listening to the two of them bickering, Xianxia finally felt that she had returned to reality. Qingjun sat silently beside her, holding her hand. It was so hot that it was sweating, but he did not want to let go. Xianxia understood that he did not feel safe, so she let him hold her hand tightly. The car drove slowly on the street. Gradually, snowflakes rustled down, wandering in the silent city at night. Looking at the fluttering snowflakes outside the window, Xianxia's mind was filled with Qingjun. How did he witness the green branches and leaves gradually turning yellow and falling, and finally being covered by the snow? Xianxia did not know all of this, and she did not dare to ask. Tu Nan sent them downstairs, and the secretary was still complaining about his weird taste. Tu Nan quickly gave in and said that he would change the car in 2 days, and asked the secretary to choose a nice-looking car. The two of them laughed and watched Xianxia and Qingjun leave. Tu Nan heaved a sigh of relief. "That's great. If sister-in-law didn't come back, I was afraid that the boss would not survive this winter." Wen Qian, "Yes, fortunately. But, where do you think Xiaoqiu went?" Tu Nan's face was full of nerves. "Maybe the heavens couldn't stand it anymore and sent a fairy to accompany the boss." Wen Qian burst out laughing. "Maybe." It was not important to them whether they could tell the truth or not, and they did not have to reveal every secret. The two of them looked at each other and returned to the car. A big stone in their hearts was finally lifted, and they could sleep well tonight. For Xianxia, the last time she went upstairs was only a day ago. She held Qingjun's hand and casually mentioned the myth of Orpheus, but she did not expect it to be true. Xianxia swore that she would not talk nonsense again. She held Qingjun's hand and walked forward 2 steps, but Qingjun suddenly stopped. "Xianxia, ? You go first." As if he was afraid of the nightmare repeating itself, he walked behind Xianxia, holding her hand and not letting go. Xianxia comforted him and took the lead to go upstairs. The journey was particularly long, as if they were walking on a single plank bridge. She did not need to look back to know that Qingjun must be nervous and staring at her without blinking, afraid that she would disappear. Fortunately, there were no accidents along the way. He opened the door and pulled Xianxia in. 7 months had passed, and the room was still the same as before, as if she had really only been away for a day. "Did you eat properly when I wasn't around?" Xianxia asked as she opened the fridge. She did not expect there to be fruits in the fridge. On the contrary, there was not a bottle of Yakult, only a few boxes of milk that had not been drunk. Qingjun stood behind her and slowly answered Xiaoqiu's question. "I ate 3 meals regularly, stopped eating snacks, remembered to put on more clothes when the weather was cold, woke up early, went to bed early, and trained regularly. I finished all the work I needed to do, and occasionally participated in social activities. So, I won't cause you any trouble." Xiaoqiu was silent. She blinked and tried to control herself not to cry again, but the moment she saw Qingjun's uneasy and cautious expression, her eyes turned red. She sniffed hard and turned her face to the side. "What do you want to eat?" Qingjun said, "Anything is fine. Let me see if there's anything else." Unexpectedly, the rice and noodles had obviously been replaced, so there was no need to worry about them being inedible for too long. There were fresh vegetables, meat, and eggs in the fridge. Wanchocho was stunned for a moment. Qingjun did not know how to cook, and it was absolutely impossible for him to cook, so, the vegetables and fruits were so fresh, even if he did not eat them, they must be replaced often. He must be waiting for her every day. Wanchocho was very glad that she had thought of a way to come back in time. If she had stayed in the other world for 8 to 10 days, she could not imagine if Qingjun would still be alive when she came back. She made a bowl of simple noodles and laid 2 eggs for Qingjun. She had eaten enough in the police station. The two of them sat at the dining table facing each other. Qingjun held his chopsticks and did not eat for a long time. He looked down at the noodles in the bowl. His scattered hair covered his eyelids, and the emotions in his eyes could not be seen clearly. Wanchocho softened her voice. "Eat quickly, the noodles are going to lump." He suddenly gave a short sob. The dining room was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Wanchocho could hardly believe it. Qingjun, he was actually crying. She was stunned on the spot, but she saw Qingjun holding his chopsticks and picking up the noodles to eat. The sound of him slurping the noodles was not loud, but it covered the other noises. After he finished the noodles and eggs, he drank all the soup in the bowl. Wanchocho asked, "Are you still not full?" Qingjun put down the bowl. "I'm full." It had been a long time since he had eaten so much food at once. Qingjun went to wash the dishes as usual. When he heard no sound for a long time, he subconsciously looked to see if Wanchocho was still there. Although Wanchocho had promised several times that she would never leave this time, he seemed to be a little worried. Wanchocho went to the bathroom, and Qingjun wanted to follow her in, but Wanchocho hurriedly stopped him outside the door. "I'm just going to the bathroom." "I don't mind." "I mind." Qingjun stood outside the door, and the bathroom door was closed. Every few seconds, he would call Wanchocho's name, and she would respond in time. When she was showering, she had been talking to Qingjun, so Wanchocho drank a lot of water and almost choked. She understood Qingjun's mood at the moment, so she tried her best to satisfy his requests. When they were sleeping on the bed, Qingjun gently hugged her in his arms. Her nose was filled with Qingjun's refreshing smell, and she hugged Qingjun's arm with peace of mind. The two of them hugged each other, and Qingjun did nothing but sleep together with the quilt. Their eyes were open, and they were not sleepy. Lying down, Wanchocho was a little tired, and she fell asleep in the middle of the night. When she was half asleep, she heard Qingjun calling her softly. "Chocho?" She kissed his chin in a daze and shrank into his arms. "I'm here. I'll always be here." When she woke up, the sky was already bright. Wanchocho rubbed her eyes sleepily. She didn't expect to sleep for so long. She slowly opened her eyes and saw Qingjun's face. His pair of dark eyes were fixed on her. Wanchocho didn't know how long he had been staring at her. She almost suspected that he hadn't fallen asleep. She curled up in his arms and raised her head. "When did you wake up?" "I just woke up." Liar, he definitely didn't sleep well. Wanchocho knew that this kind of thing couldn't be forced. Qingjun didn't have a sense of security, and she had disappeared for 7 months. It would be strange if he could feel at ease. Wanchocho asked softly, "Aren't you going to ask me where I went?" As if he had touched some kind of indescribable curse, Qingjun reacted quickly and covered his ears. The two of them looked at each other. "I'm not listening." Wanchocho, good, she didn't have to explain to Qingjun what was going on. After experiencing a separation, Qingjun was so obedient and clingy that he didn't make Wanchocho angry at all. People were strange. When Qingjun was a dog, she was angry, but when he wasn't, she was always worried. Would Qingjun's mental state have problems? Wanchocho, who had returned from another world, was focused on accompanying Qingjun. The two of them went shopping hand in hand, walked in the park together, worked in the kitchen together, and slept together at night. It would be better if Qingjun didn't call her name when she went to the bathroom or took a shower. Wanchocho was cooking in the kitchen, and Qingjun helped her peel a few round potatoes. Wanchocho only heard the sound of peeling, and it didn't stop for a long time. She subconsciously turned her head and saw Qingjun standing next to the trash can, peeling a few more layers of potatoes that were only the size of a small apple in his hand. Wanqiuqiu? What are you doing? Qingjun, health. Wanqiuqiu, Qingjun was almost hit by a hammer before he was chased out of the kitchen. She continued to cut the potatoes and put the cut potatoes into the pot. For some reason, she felt that there was a faint gaze behind her, staring at her and making her feel uncomfortable. Wanqiuqiu looked in the direction that made her uncomfortable and suddenly fell silent. The boss of the Jiaqin company. She leaned against the fridge and sat on the tiled floor with her arms wrapped around her legs. She didn't know when the hood of her hoodie had been placed on her head, but 2 long strips of the elastic band had been pulled down. The hood covered most of her face, leaving only a pair of eyes, silently and dejectedly looking at her. Wanqiuqiu. Why are you sitting on the ground? Qingjun, did I make you angry? Wanqiuqiu, you're thinking too much. She was amused and helpless. She walked to the fridge to get the ingredients. Qingjun sat on the ground and raised a hand to help her open the fridge door. He was still looking at her silently. Wanqiuqiu took out a few green vegetables. Seeing that there was a box of small tomatoes, she took them all out as well. Qingjun's gaze shifted to the small tomatoes. He opened his mouth and said, "Ah." The two of them stared at each other. Wanqiuqiu didn't know what to do with him. She took out a small tomato, wiped it, and stuffed it into Qingjun's mouth without washing it. Qingjun didn't care whether the tomato was clean or not. He enjoyed the sweet taste of the tomato juice between his lips and teeth. The two of them ate quietly. In order to replenish Qingjun's nutrition, Wanqiuqiu kept putting meat into his bowl. For the first time, Qingjun was full. It was a rare moment. Qingjun's mouth was full. He asked vaguely, "Do you want to go out to play during the new year?" Wanqiuqiu, go out to play. There's no particular place I want to go. Actually, it was good enough to stay at home. Then, stay at home this year. Okay. At night, after taking a shower, Wanqiuqiu was drying her hair. Qingjun volunteered to pick up the hairdryer to dry her hair. Wanqiuqiu didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that she smelled something burning. She sniffed suspiciously and said, "Is my hair burnt?" Qingjun silently hid a small strand of hair in the hairdryer. No. He dried her hair and helped her apply hair essential oil. Although his technique was a little rough, his movements were very gentle. Unknowingly, Wanqiuqiu closed her eyes slightly. The feeling of her hair being massaged was very comfortable. She couldn't help but feel sleepy. She opened her mouth and yawned. Qingjun wiped his hands clean and hugged Wanqiuqiu's slender waist from behind. He put his chin on her neck. His breath was warm. When it blew on her soft skin, Wanqiuqiu couldn't help but shudder. Qingjun, His hand gently rubbed her abdomen and tried to open her clothes. He turned his face and his lips fell on her slender neck, leaving a series of kisses. Wanqiuqiu's body tensed up. She couldn't help but hold his wrist as her cheeks flushed red. Qingjun hugged her tightly and kissed the corner of her lips. Wanqiuqiu was tickled by his actions and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her skin that was touched felt numb and itchy. She wanted to twist and break free from Qingjun's embrace. After rubbing a few times, she heard Qingjun gasp softly. She sank into the soft quilt and was in a daze from Qingjun's kisses. She only knew to hold his shoulders and let the two of them get closer. He held the back of her head and kissed her deeply. Wanqiuqiu was forced to raise her head. Qingjun, Qingjun, she whispered his name over and over again. At the beginning, Qingjun's kisses were very gentle, as if he was treating a fragile treasure. Every kiss was very careful, for fear of scaring her. Gradually, his movements became more and more intense. Wanqiuqiu began to tremble with fear. The more she called his name, the more Qingjun couldn't control himself and left red marks on every inch of her skin. He bit her lips, causing Wanqiuqiu to unconsciously cry out in pain. Then, this cry was swallowed by his kiss. Wanqiuqiu was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Her white jade-like skin was exposed. The temperature in the room was slightly low. Wanqiuqiu was a little cold and subconsciously shrank into Qingjun's arms. Her body was pressed against his defenseless body, and an intoxicating blush spread across her body. He was ready to take the last step. Suddenly, Qingjun was silent. He buried his cheek in her neck and remained motionless, calming his breathing. Wanchocho collapsed on the bed. Her face was red. For a long time, Qingjun didn't continue. She gradually came to her senses and blinked in confusion. Qingjun? Qingjun actually let her go like this. He sat up. His face was expressionless, but there was still lust in his eyes. He picked up his clothes and put them on. He looked like he was going to pause in the middle, which made Wanchocho stunned. Wanchocho began to think. What went wrong? It couldn't be that she was no longer attractive to Qingjun. Wanchocho suddenly thought of a very possible reason. Her little face was pale. She asked in a trembling voice, "You can't it?" Thinking about it, it made sense. He hadn't seen her for such a long time. He was depressed and had other miscellaneous problems. It was natural that this would happen. Wanchocho thought for a few seconds with mixed feelings. Although Qingjun couldn't do it, she still loved him. She wouldn't leave him because of this. Qingjun, he stopped putting on his clothes and stared at Wanchocho faintly. It's because there are no protective measures. I'll go downstairs to buy some. Wanchocho, oh. Sorry, I misunderstood. It was a bit of a killjoy to go downstairs at this time. Wanchocho covered her body with the quilt and hesitated. She blushed and suggested, actually, it's okay to not use protective measures. Qingjun's expression was firm. No. His expression was so firm that it was as if Wanchocho would be pregnant after tonight. After she gave birth to the child, she would disappear, leaving him and the baby to rely on each other. From then on, they would live alone and rely on their memories. Wanchocho knew that Qingjun must still be thinking about those fairy tales. She couldn't explain it to him, so she could only watch as Qingjun went out to find a pharmacy. Qingjun came back so quickly that Wanchocho almost thought that he ran back. When he came back, he was carrying 2 big bags full of things. It was a spectacular scene. Wanchocho, why did you buy so much? Qingwan was serious and slowly retorted. Not much. If it weren't for the fact that they ran out, he might have bought more. Qingjun used one night to show Wanchocho that not only was he not good at it, but he was also very good at it. In the end, Wanchocho sobbed and begged for mercy. Her voice was almost hoarse, but it didn't stop this dog of a man. Instead, he became more immersed in it. He tossed her so much that she didn't even know when she fell asleep. The next day, Wanchocho slept until half the afternoon and couldn't get up. Her whole body hurt as if it had been run over by a wheel. She angrily punched Qingjun, but Qingjun didn't feel anything. He even lowered his head and kissed her on the lips. He looked as if he wanted to continue, but Wanchocho quickly stopped him. She didn't want to be so embarrassed that she couldn't get up for a few days. Wanchocho lay on the bed and suddenly remembered Qingjun's firm attitude last night. She couldn't help but ask, if I'm pregnant, will you let me abort it? Qingjun was playing with her hair. When he heard this, he was silent for a moment and said gently, if you want it, you can keep it. And then? Take care of the baby. A pregnant woman's health is the most important. And then? It will definitely be very tiring to give birth, so you have to take in more nutrients. And then? Give birth to the baby? Qingjun stopped playing with her hair. He looked at her as if he was talking about an ordinary matter and was extremely calm. And then, find a good family. Wanchocho? Before the spring festival, there was another pleasant surprise. Guyu was getting married. Wanchocho was surprised when she heard the news. For someone like her who had missed half a year, she hadn't heard that Guyu had a girlfriend. She didn't expect that Guyu was getting married. He invited Wanchocho and her husband to his wedding and jokingly said that he would understand if Qingjun didn't come. Wanchocho replied with a laughing emoji. Her phone beeped. It was a wedding photo sent by Guyu. The girl was beautiful and cute, and she was slightly petite. She was nestled in Guyu's arms with a sweet smile. As the groom-to-be, Yu lowered his head and stared at her with a smile. The love between the two was so strong that it couldn't be dissolved. Xianxia was sincerely happy for him. She wrote a long congratulatory message and was about to send it when a hand reached over her shoulder and grabbed the phone to examine it for a moment. Qingjun put one hand in his pocket and asked slowly, "Why did you write so much?" "Xianxia? Is this a wedding blessing?" "Qingjun, no." He pressed the delete button and deleted all the lines until only the word "congratulations" was left on the editing page. He clicked send. Xianxia, on the other end of the phone, Yu replied very quickly. "Yu, Qingjun, Qingjun." Before Xianxia had time to laugh at Qingjun, she saw him quickly click on the contact page. She hurriedly stopped him. "Hey, don't delete them." Yu's wedding was much more lively. He booked a luxurious hotel and invited many friends and relatives to hold a lively and romantic wedding. Qingjun, Tunan, and the others were sitting at Xiao's table. They sat at the same table. Except for Qingjun, who forced himself to be expressionless and lowered his head to eat peanuts, the rest of the people were applauding and congratulating them. The bride and groom stood in the middle of the stage. They looked at each other and smiled. The groom hugged the bride and lowered his head to give her a light kiss. The light shone on the two of them, and a gentle singing voice resounded in the hall. The two of them had picturesque features, and they looked like a pair of immortal lovers that was enviable. "Wow, it's so romantic." Xianxia couldn't help but put her palms together. Secretary Wen Qian, who was sitting next to her, also had hearts in his eyes. The two equally matched men sitting beside her looked at each other with confusion written all over their faces. Wen Qian said, "I want to hold my future wedding by the sea." Xianxia said, "Forget it, I've already finished my wedding." After the ceremony, the newlyweds greeted one by one. When it came to Qingjun's table, the other guests couldn't help but take a few more glances, thinking that they had invited a celestial star. It was only after hearing from other sources that they found out that it was a high-ranking judging official. In this day and age, one would be embarrassed to be a boss if they didn't have good looks. Yu nodded and smiled at them, and introduced them to the bride one by one. Xianxia smiled very happily, but to her surprise, Qingjun picked up a peanut and stuffed it into her mouth. "Don't laugh." Xianxia was very puzzled by this lemon spirit's strange jealousy. He was unhappy from the moment he received the invitation. After the wedding, he still pulled Xianxia far away, as if they really had a relationship. The two of them strolled on the street. The weather today was not bad. Although the temperature was not high, there was no cold wind. Xianxia said, "Don't do this next time. Don't let Tunan and the others misunderstand." "Oh." Qingjun took her hand and put it in his pocket. He answered slowly, as if he didn't take Xiao's words seriously. Xianxia cast a sidelong glance at him. Some people, after letting down their guard, began to talk like a dog. However, it was good news for her that Qingjun could gradually return to normal. After returning home, Xianxia remembered, "By the way, where is the CD of our wedding?" Qingjun, who was sitting on the sofa and concentrating on peeling pine nuts, turned his face and said, "On the table in the study, there is a black USB flash drive." "Okay, I'll look for it." The two of them had been together for so long, but the number of times Xianxia came to Qingjun's study could be counted on one hand. It was not that she was not allowed to enter, but Qingjun's room was really simple and clean. There were no secrets to speak of. If it was not for something, Xianxia was too lazy to go in. The door of the study was open. Nowadays, Qingjun rarely closed the door of the study. He was more focused on successfully getting into Xiao's bed at night. Xiao rummaged for a long time on the desk, only to find a small black box, which was neatly placed in an inconspicuous position on the desk. She thought it was a USB flash drive, but when she opened it, she saw a very familiar thing inside, a sheep dung ball. The box was padded with a flannel cloth, and a small black stone tied with a red string was smooth and beautiful. At first glance, it was obvious that it was often touched. Xiao subconsciously glanced at Qingjun sitting on the sofa. He was still peeling pine nuts. She was amused and touched. It turned out that Qingjun was lying when he said that he threw it away. The thing had been on his desk all along. She decided to pretend that she did not see it and carefully put it back to its original position. The USB flash drive turned out to be behind the display screen. It seemed to have been used many times, and the casing was a little worn. Wan Qiuqiu excitedly pulled Qingjun to watch the wedding video together. Qingjun suddenly stood up and said in an erratic tone, "I seem to have something to do." Wan Qiuqiu? She did not know why, but she always had a bad premonition. Wan Qiuqiu forced Qingjun to watch the wedding video with a dark face. At the beginning of the video, the picture was beautiful. There was a picture of Wan Qiuqiu's beautiful appearance when she walked out in a wedding dress, and her teary eyes were hazy as she wiped her tears. When Wan Qiuqiu was not around, Qingjun had already watched it more than 100 times. Naturally, he knew what was going to happen next. Qingjun tried to change the topic. "I'm hungry." Wan Qiuqiu grabbed his arm. "Hold it." In the next second, the camera suddenly zoomed in and began to focus on Wan Qiuqiu's face throughout the whole process. It clearly recorded the changes in her expression. Even the slightly blurred eyeshadow when she cried was clearly captured. Of course, ordinary people would not shoot like this, let alone an experienced photographer. At that time, it was Qingjun who asked for Wan Qiuqiu's expression to be captured clearly throughout the whole process. As the culprit, he felt a little guilty. "It's so beautiful." Wan Qiuqiu, June. Qingjun was hit by a hammer before he apologized to Wan Qiuqiu in a low voice. At the same time, in the women's prison, it was the weekly limited entertainment time again. After they finished their production tasks, they returned to the prison to rest and waited for the movie to start later. A thin woman was sitting against the wall. There was no expression on her face, and her eyes were indifferent. She stared at the wall in a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. The others had long been used to her daydreaming appearance and ignored her. From her haggard face, one could vaguely see some of her former beauty. It was Su Being. The TV was turned on, and noisy music was playing. Someone was holding the remote control and changing the channel. There were still a few minutes before the movie started. At this time, it was allowed to occasionally watch other things. Suddenly, a low and gentle voice came from the TV. "Introducing my wife to everyone. This is my happiest gift this year." Su Being, who was sitting in the corner, suddenly stood up, startling everyone else. "What's wrong with you?" She walked to the TV without saying a word. The man on the screen was handsome and gentle. The tenderness between his eyebrows was overflowing. Anyone could see that he really loved his wife. He hugged his wife's waist. The two of them stood in front of the camera and smiled at each other, causing the entertainment reporters to laugh. How could Su Being not remember, in her previous life, when she was poor and had no one to rely on, she saw this scene. It was also in the camera. Guyu was hugging his wife. The two of them looked at each other sweetly. She thought that her mediocre childhood friend, Guyu, was holding his wife and announcing their marriage to the world. This dazzling scene overlapped with the memory of her previous life. It seemed to be mocking her for wanting too much, but in the end, she still had nothing. At that time, Su Being was so unwilling. She thought that if she was given a chance, she would definitely seize Guyu and live a happy life. Now, after being reborn, the two of them were cuddling sweetly in the camera. The same dumbfounded and embarrassed Su Being was in front of the screen. But from outside the wall to inside the high walls, she still had a few years to go before she could be released from prison. Amidst the helpless shouts of the others, she knelt on the ground and covered her face. Her throat was choked. After a while, she let out a sad whimper. Wan Qiuqiu's question appeared in her mind again. "Do you regret it?" If regret could give her a second chance, she would definitely cry and beg the heavens to give her another chance. But the goddess of fate would no longer care for her. At this time, Su Being realized that she had paid a huge price for her stupidity and indifference. She would probably be shrouded in a shadow for the rest of her life. She would regret and reflect on her mistakes for the rest of her life. The sorrowful cries in the prison didn't stop for a long time. The spring festival was coming. Fortunately, firecrackers were banned in the city. Wan Qiuqiu still trembled with fear when she recalled a group of naughty children covering their ears and baring their teeth. As an innocent passerby, she disliked firecrackers the most. She was even indifferent to fireworks. It was difficult for the two of them to have a festive atmosphere during the festival. In order to make the festival more interesting, Wan Qiuqiu specially dragged Qingjun to buy a bunch of fruits, vegetables, meat, and poultry to eat and drink. Other than the boring Spring Festival gala, eating a big meal was the only thing that made people happy. It was originally a 4-person chat group. Now, Wan Qiuqiu and Wen Qian also joined it. On New Year's Eve, early in the morning, Tu Nan shouted to give out red packets. One by one, everyone was free to do as they pleased. The red packets were bigger than the previous one. Although they weren't short of money, the total amount of red packets wasn't even enough to buy a new dress. Wan Qiuqiu snatched them up happily. Her luck was average. She didn't get much money even after snatching a few red packets. The others more or less got large red packets. Only Tu Nan's luck was off the charts. He got the best red packets in a row. At this time, Tu Nan was quite smug. He sent a few voice messages in the group, showing off how much money he got. Everyone was silent. Until the screen showed that Tu Nan had been removed from the group returned to its cheerful atmosphere. Everyone happily sent out a few more red packets. This time, Wan Qiuqiu also got the best red packet. Without Tu Nan's presence, everything was so happy and peaceful. Tu Nan sent a private message to everyone. He sent a QAQ emoji, begging everyone to add him to the group. Everyone was busy snatching red packets and no one cared about him. Even Wen Qian sent a hammering emoji, saying that he deserved it. Tu Nan posted a crying status on his WeChat moments, "No one loves me. It's so sad." After a few minutes. "Father Tu, did you have a fight?" "It can't be. Wen Qian is such a good girl." "What did you do to her, Mother Tu? Don't talk nonsense." "Are we all dead, eldest aunt? What are you talking about during the new year, youngest uncle? Young people shouldn't be too impulsive." His 7 aunts and 8 aunts began to send him private messages, such as the way for a husband and wife to get along, a man must love his wife, filial piety is the most important virtue. Tu Nan complained incessantly. He began to regret that he didn't categorize his posts. He complained to Wen Qian, which made Wen Qian very happy. Although there were only 2 of them, Wan Qiuqiu still carefully prepared the New Year's Eve dinner. When there were more dishes, Wan Qiuqiu patted her head in annoyance. She estimated that she would have to eat leftovers tomorrow. However, Qingjun was still beside her. He pointed out that they could add a few more pieces of meat. "Wan Qiuqiu, do you want to die from overeating?" Qingjun thought for a moment. "This way of dying is quite good." Wan Qiuqiu. In the afternoon, Wan Qiuqiu prepared to knead bread and dumplings. The 2 of them, together with some dishes, snacks, and drinks, could only eat a few dumplings. Qingjun helped her, caused trouble. When the dough was kneaded and rolled into dough, he minded his own business and began to make moon dumplings. After a while, the dumplings on the chopping board came online one after another. Wan Qiuqiu said that she must leave all these ugly dumplings for Qingjun to eat later. The 2 of them were busy and exchanged a few words from time to time. Qingjun had made enough dumplings. He wiped his hands and fed Wan Qiuqiu strawberries. There was a plate of bright red strawberries beside the chopping board, but they ate more than half of them in a short while. Qingjun looked up and saw Wan Qiuqiu rolling the dough with her head lowered. Her eyes were focused and cute. His fingertips were stained with flour. When Wan Qiuqiu was not paying attention, he smeared it on her face. Wan Qiuqiu screamed and reacted very quickly. Wan Qiuqiu's hands were full of flour. She was about to slap it on Qingjun's body, but Qingjun hooked her waist and pulled her into his arms. He lowered his eyebrows, held her hand, and leaned forward to kiss her lips. Her lips were very soft, with the sweet fragrance of strawberries, making people unconsciously want to ask for a deep kiss. Qingjun tirelessly hooked her lips and tongue over and over again. His fingers unconsciously slipped on her waist, and they did not notice the flour sticking to their bodies. Qingjun said in a hoarse voice, "Let's make dumplings later." Wan Qiuqiu's cheeks were red. What nonsense are you talking about in broad daylight? He lifted her up and put her on the table, continuing to kiss her. Every time Wan Qiuqiu wanted to refuse Qingjun's nonsense, his enlarged cheeks were stained with desire. He was so beautiful and seductive that not only did she not have the words to refuse, but she also had the heart to defile Qingjun. At this moment. Knock, knock, knock. The two of them froze. Wan Qiuqiu whispered, I didn't order takeout. Maybe they knocked on the wrong door. Qingjun, don't worry about it. He lifted Wan Qiuqiu's chin and was about to continue when there was another knock on the door. Tunan's loud voice could be heard through the thick door. Boss. Sister-in-law. It's us, open the door. Wan Qiuqiu, Qingjun, Tunan, don't pretend you can't hear me, I know you're at home. Wan Qiuqiu hurriedly wiped her lips, blushed, and tidied up her clothes. Open the door. When the door was opened, Tunan shamelessly squeezed in, completely ignoring Qingjun's look of looking at a dead person. Unexpectedly, not only was Wen Qian following behind him, Fu Zicheng was also there. Jiao Fan went to the United States to accompany Enro, leaving behind Fu Zicheng, a single dog, with hot tears in his eyes. He didn't expect that after a year, he would be the only single dog left. Wow, sister-in-law made so much delicious food. That's great, Tunan was right, there's food to eat. Ha ha ha, that's right. There was no such thing as women cooking and men chatting here. Instead, Wan Qiuqiu and Wen Qian were the bosses, instructing their men to do things while Fu Zicheng assisted them. Tunan insisted that he used to be the god of cookery. It wasn't easy for him to cook such a terrible dish like scrambled eggs with tomatoes. When the dishes were served, they happily raised their glasses. Wan Qiuqiu also raised her glass happily, but Qingjun stopped her halfway. You're not allowed to drink. It's just one sip. Wait until they're gone. He held her hand down. Qingjun's hint was obvious, and Wan Qiuqiu's face turned red. Fortunately, everyone was laughing and joking, and no one heard the two of them whispering. Fu Zicheng suddenly laughed and said, Jiao Fan wants to video call us. On the other end of the video call, the Jiao Fan had just woken up and was sleepily greeting them in her pajamas. She looked at the table full of dishes with envy and jealousy. They were joking when a head suddenly popped up beside them. It was Enro. They were silent for a moment, not knowing what to say. Enro looked in Wan Qiuqiu's direction and shook the ring on his finger at her. I'm also taken, don't misunderstand, I won't go back to the same old grass. Wan Qiuqiu. Fu Zicheng was shocked and his whole body ached. Damn, when did you guys propose? You didn't even tell me. The Jiao Fan scratched her head, why should I tell you? The few of them warmed up again. After the video call ended, Wan Qiuqiu took a look at her phone while eating and saw that someone had sent her a friend request. The other party's note said, don't change my name to little sister. She didn't need to guess who it was. Wan Qiuqiu was amused and accepted the friend request. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, but Enro was still arrogant. She kept saying that she was going to get married too and that she didn't mind her experiencing a wedding overseas. She sent an emoji nodding in agreement. At this moment, Enro sent another message. Sorry. Wan Qiuqiu was stunned, ? The other party deleted the message and said, I sent the wrong message, you didn't see anything. That's it, I'm going on a date. I hope you guys get tired of each other later. She couldn't help but smile. Thank you, little sister. Shut up. They ate their New Year's Eve dinner until their stomachs were round. Qingjun was the only one who stared at them the whole time. He finally understood that this group of people wanted to wait until New Year's Eve before giving up. He wanted Wan Qiuqiu to pay more attention to him, but Wan Qiuqiu was busy chatting with everyone and ignored Qingjun. He walked to the study alone. After a while, Wan Qiuqiu couldn't find Qingjun. She looked around and found him standing by the window of the study, alone in the cold wind. His back was bleak. Wan Qiuqiu walked over slowly and hugged Qingjun from behind. Qingjun's body froze. Why are you here? Although he said that, he pulled Wan Qiuqiu into his arms tightly so that she wouldn't be exposed to the cold wind. Wan Qiuqiu buried her face in his chest. After a long time, she let out a satisfied sigh and said in a muffled voice, Qingjun was already immune to her strange name, yes. I love you. End of text. Woman, you're playing with fire. Qingjun leaned against the wall with one hand in his trouser pocket. His cheeks were lowered, and his eyes were deep. The flickering fire illuminated the side of his face, making his facial features look even more handsome. His voice was low and hoarse, and his words were ambiguous. Xianxia squatted on the ground and poked at the flame. She couldn't bear it anymore and said, It's just roasting a sweet potato. Do you have to be like this? The flame in front of her was burning brightly, and the resin was crackling. She could faintly smell the fragrance of roasted sweet potatoes. Everyone had agreed to come to the farmhouse together. Tunan and the others would be arriving soon. Since there was time, Xianxia simply roasted a few sweet potatoes to eat together. She didn't know how Qingjun knew that Xianxia would like the characters in the domineering CEO novel. He had been studying for a long time in the spirit of a research paper, and he applied all the knowledge that could be used in all aspects. He also used the knowledge that he shouldn't use. Xianxia couldn't stop him. She glared at Qingjun and said, Come here and eat the sweet potatoes. Oh. Just a moment ago, he still looked like a domineering CEO, but in the blink of an eye, he turned into an obedient big golden retriever. He obediently squatted beside Xianxia and watched Xianxia take out the roasted sweet potatoes with a branch. The skin of the sweet potato was still very hot, but Qingjun reached out his hand without warning. Before Xianxia could stop him, she saw Qingjun's fingertips touch the sweet potato. His movements stiffened, and he suddenly withdrew his hand. Xianxia said, You're really scalded. Qingjun was silent for a moment and said, Try again. Xianxia. Some people would even give up their lives for food. The sweet potato cooled a little, and they finally ate it successfully. The skin was charred, and the inside was soft and sweet. It melted in the mouth and was delicious. Unfortunately, Xianxia didn't roast a lot. One was just enough for each of them. After Qingjun finished eating, he began to stare at Xianxia. Amused, she broke half of it and handed it to him. Here, the last half. There's still food to eat later. Qingjun obediently ate the remaining half of the sweet potato. He wiped his hands and suddenly paused. Sitting beside him, Xianxia blinked her eyes and looked at him in confusion. Qingjun seemed to have realized something. He stretched out his hand, and the pads of his index and middle fingers were red. He let out a long sigh and said faintly, It hurts. Xianxia, so, I only started to feel the pain after I ate it? In fact, there wasn't much fun at the farmhouse. For everyone, it was just a change of venue to gather together. The chat history in the group would often add 99 times. According to Qingjun's habits, if it wasn't for Xianxia chatting happily in the group, he would have kicked everyone else out of the group. I heard that Guguyu's wife is pregnant. Really? So fast? Probably because he didn't take any protective measures. Speaking of this, Secretary Wenqian nudged Xianxia's arm with his elbow and teased, What about you? You've been married for so many years. What are you thinking? I don't have any plans for now. It was better to let nature take its course when it came to having a child. Xianxia had been with Qingjun for 2 to 3 years, but Qingjun was always sick of her. Sometimes, he would act like a dog, and when he was angry, he would pretend to be pitiful. Xianxia couldn't do anything about it. The two of them weren't tired of living together, so they weren't in a hurry to have a child. Xianxia hoped that Qingjun would make the decision. She could only try her best to give him a sense of security. They laughed and joked around as they ate dinner. Then, they went back to rest early. They still had to pick strawberries the next day. The house in the suburbs was much colder than the apartment in the city. Xianxia took a shower and lay down on the bed, burying herself in it. Not long after, Qingjun also crawled under the bed and hugged Xianxia in his arms. Xianxia looked up and pushed him away. Don't hug me to sleep. He had been hugging her to sleep for the past few days, so she was about to have a stiff neck. Qingjun, you dislike me already? Xianxia, no, I don't. Qingjun, women. Wan Qiuqiu. She couldn't persuade Qingjun. In the end, she lay in his arms and slept. Qingjun started to kiss her cheeks as she slept. Wan Qiuqiu slapped his naughty hand. Qingjun groaned and said, "My hand hurts." Wan Qiuqiu reacted and subconsciously pulled his hand up. "Does it really hurt? I'll ask the owner if there's any medicine." "No need." He interlocked his fingers and turned over in the dark night, pressing her down on the bed. "You're the medicine. Wan Qiuqiu. If you say such crazy things again, I'll kick you off the bed." Qingjun changed his rules in a second. Okay. There was no need to wait until the next day to plant strawberries. Qingjun planted many red strawberries on Wan Qiuqiu's body. The two of them went to the last step. Wan Qiuqiu was naked under the blankets. Her cheeks were red, and she was so cute that he just wanted to swallow her. Qingjun's lips were pressed against her neck. His eyes were half closed, and his hand was habitually groping in the drawer of the bedside table. Then, his movements stopped. "Wan Qiuqiu, ? Qingjun kissed the fair skin of her neck and said in an annoyed tone. "I forgot to take something." It had been a long time since they did it again. The last time, Wan Qiuqiu remembered that Qingjun had gone downstairs to buy it in the middle of the night. Now that they were in the wilderness, there was no place to sell safety measures. He supported himself with one hand on the bed and said, "I'll go and borrow it from Tunan." Wan Qiuqiu blushed. "How can you borrow such things?" "No." It was too embarrassing. Qingjun rubbed her chin pitifully and whispered her name over and over again. Wan Qiuqiu's heart softened. Wan Qiuqiu blushed and said softly, "I've calculated. Today is the safe period. It should be fine. Even if it happened once in a while, it wouldn't be fatal." That was really fate. The probability of having a child and Wan Qiuqiu, who was in front of him, taking the initiative to invite him, a devil and an angel. Qingjun hesitated for a moment. At this moment, Wan Qiuqiu hooked her arms around his neck and kissed him on the lips. Her soft body was pressed against his, and she said with a mischievous smile, "You can push me away. We can continue to sleep." Qingjun's Adam's apple bobbed up and down with difficulty. The result of taking the initiative was that Wan Qiuqiu and Qingjun successfully asked for leave from the strawberry picking team the next day. Wan Qiuqiu's reason was that she was not feeling well because of her period and wanted to lie in bed to rest. When Qian came to take a look, Wan Qiuqiu was wrapped in a quilt and lying on the bed. Qingjun poured water for her. When Qian believed her and asked her to have a good rest, they would definitely pick more strawberries and bring them back. As soon as Wen Qian left, Wan Qiuqiu blushed and hit Qingjun hard. She was not very strong. Qingjun acted as if nothing had happened and asked her gently what she wanted to eat later. Wan Qiuqiu was speechless. She really had to hand it to him. After 2 days and 1 night of farmhouse fun, Wan Qiuqiu harvested 2 batches of strawberries. One was on her body, and the other was in the trunk. Wan Qiuqiu's mood became even worse when she thought about going to work the next day. From time to time, she would give Qingjun a cold glare, completely forgetting that she was the one who took the initiative that night. Receiving the death stares along the way, Qingjun's face was full of innocence. A few days later, Wan Qiuqiu did not feel uncomfortable at all and forgot about this matter. By the time she realized the seriousness of the problem, it was already too late. Wan Qiuqiu originally thought that it was because of the recent stress and endocrine imbalance. She went to have a checkup, but the doctor gave her a strange look and asked her to check a few more items. After the test results came out, Wan Qiuqiu sat alone on the hospital bench in a daze until Qingjun came in with 2 bottles of mineral water. Qingjun asked, "Are you not feeling well?" Wan Qiuqiu shook her head in a daze and handed the test results to him. He took a look at it. The 2 bottles of mineral water fell to the ground with a clang and rolled far away. The couple was gloomy, especially the husband, Qingjun, who did not have any happy expression on his face. The nurse thought that their love life was on the verge of breaking down, so she politely asked them to go back and think about it carefully. Wan Qiuqiu, who had never planned to be a mother, was also frightened, but fortunately, she did not feel much at the moment. On the way home, she comforted Qingjun and told him that if he could not accept it, it was okay to abort the child. When Qingjun came out of the hospital, he was expressionless. When he came home, he still had the same expression. He did not even eat much, which made Xianxia worried. He touched her head and did not say a word. That night, Qingjun hugged Xianxia and did not sleep. Even the others could clearly feel that something was wrong with Qingjun. During office hours, Qingjun was in a meeting, but he seemed to be in a daze and let Fu Zicheng talk for a long time. He did not even turn the page of the PowerPoint presentation on his laptop. He looked at his mobile phone and swiped up and down on the screen. No one knew what he was looking at, but he was very focused and his eyes were serious. The others stole glances at Qingjun from time to time. Everyone unanimously guessed that there was a problem with Fu Zicheng's proposal. Even Fu Zicheng stuttered and could not help but doubt himself. If they took a look at Qingjun's mobile phone at this moment, they would be able to see the search terms displayed on the screen. The dangers of abortion, the specific procedures of natural birth and cesarean section, the impact of childbirth on women, how to minimize the harm of childbirth to women, are women willing to have children, and so on. There were even similar topics such as specific symptoms of postpartum depression. Qingjun lowered his head and looked for a long time. The expression of Xianxia sitting on the hospital bench appeared in his mind. She was holding a checkup report and looked at Qingjun uneasily. Behind the nervousness, shock, and confusion, there was no fear. Instead, there was an unconcealable surprise. She must want this child. After Fu Zicheng finished his presentation, the employees in the office were waiting for Qingjun to express his opinion. Under everyone's gaze, Qingjun's face was expressionless. He slammed the laptop shut, and everyone's body could not help but tremble. Qingjun was silent for a long time. It was as if he had made an extremely difficult decision. He sat up straight. Give birth. If she wanted it. Everyone else? Giving birth to a child was a big deal. Xianxia did not expect that Qingjun would want to keep the child. She touched her flat belly. She did not have the self-awareness of becoming a mother yet, but Qingjun was already preparing for the baby. He bought a lot of books and put them in the cabinet in the study. Xianxia was bored, so she went over to take a look. She saw rows of books. In addition to books about pregnancy, there were also all kinds of fairy tales and folk tales. There were also strange books like Raising a Dog is Better Than Raising a Son, Spartan Education, Children Have to Be Sensible, and so on. Xianxia, then, she watched as Qingjun took out a cardboard box, covered it with a cloth, and solemnly put it in the cabinet. Xianxia had a bad feeling. May I ask what the cardboard box is for? Qingjun closed the cabinet without looking back and said slowly, it's not too late to regret it. Xianxia was speechless. The child was not even born yet, but as a father, he was ready to give the child to a good family. How obsessed was Qingjun to be thinking about this? Thinking of the cardboard box in the cabinet, Xianxia silently touched her belly and began to worry about her child-rearing life in the future. At night, the two of them lay together, and Qingjun began to habitually touch and hug her. Xianxia slapped him in the face so that he could not move. Qingjun? Xianxia, you've read the book. Don't you know that you can't sleep together in the first and second trimesters of pregnancy? Qingjun? He took out his phone and searched for a moment. The light of the phone reflected a silent face. His expression was blank. He looked at it several times before he confirmed that what Xianxia said was true. Mrs. Lin, the wife of the Qing family, began to look at him from time to time, proving that he was still alive. Qingjun, I'm so stupid, really. Because of this impulse, he ruined the happiness of the rest of his life. This was the most unprofitable investment he had ever made. His eyes reflected regret, despair, and the fact that he had been born with nothing to live for. Xianxia almost burst out laughing. From today onwards, Qingjun's life as a monk would begin. He was lying on his back on the bed. If it wasn't for the rise and fall of his chest, Xianxia would have thought that he had mastered the skill of self-destruction and wanted to slap himself to death. Xianxia was still adding oil and vinegar to the fire as she snuggled in his embrace, her soft cheeks rolling around his chest. Qingjun's body was as stiff as a block of wood. After a while, he said, I'm going to read. Wanchocho, are you sure? It's already so late? What left her was Qingjun's bleak and lonely back. Recently, Boss Qing began to study all kinds of strange books. At the same time, his mood became very bad. It was almost a third of the time when Wanchocho disappeared. It made others tremble with fear, afraid that they would do something wrong. Qingwan never had the habit of scolding people. He would only stare at the other party with a pair of eyes that never looked at people directly, staring straight at them without saying a word for a few seconds. This was enough to make everyone tremble in fear. The feeling of being stared at by Qingjun was really terrible. Tu Nan finally couldn't help but secretly ask Wen Qian to ask Wanchocho what was going on. Wanchocho hadn't found a good time to confess her pregnancy. She chatted with Wen Qian for a long time during afternoon tea. She didn't drink coffee or eat ice during the whole time, and even her movements were more cautious than usual. During this time, Qingjun even sent a few messages to ask when she would be home. Wen Qian asked jokingly, "Are you pregnant?" Wanchocho was stunned. "You found out?" My God. God." Wen Qian's scream attracted the attention of everyone in the restaurant. They all looked in the direction of the two of them. Wanchocho grabbed her and whispered, "Don't tell anyone. I'm not ready to go public yet." Wen Qian nodded very firmly. Until night time. Wanchocho received excited greetings from Tu Nan, Jiao Fan, Fu Zicheng, and Ro, Elder Meng's wife, and so on. Wen Qian sent her a message in embarrassment. "I swear, it's true. I only told Tu Nan." Wanchocho was afraid that Tu Nan would know. After all, his big mouth was enough to spread the news to the whole world. However, with Tu Nan's big mouth, Wanchocho didn't have to tell them one by one. Everyone's long blessings were almost endless. At the same time, everyone understood why Qingwan was so unhappy. For others, giving birth to a daughter was as important as giving birth to a son. However, for Qingjun, nothing was more important than Wanchocho's health. He had already chosen a nanny for Wanchocho and was ready to take turns to take care of her when she was pregnant. Wanchocho was speechless. "Actually, it's not that serious," Qingjun said. "You don't have a mother, and neither do I. So we need a lot of guidance from others." Qingjun was right. Wanchocho had recently begun to have anorexia. Cooking oil was bad for the body. Occasionally, she would cook noodles for Qingjun, but most of the time, Qingjun would eat in the cafeteria. He even hired a nutritionist for Wanchocho to eat meat and vegetables. Her 3 meals a day became nutritious meals, including nuts. This caused Wanchocho to unconsciously eat more when she originally didn't want to eat. After standing on the scale, Wanchocho felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She couldn't believe the 3-digit number displayed on the scale. She pinched the meat on her face and widened her eyes. She realized that she was about to face the most important crisis of gaining weight. Wanchocho began to refuse to eat so much every day and told Qingjun about the difficulties of pregnant women giving birth to children. Qingjun said that she wouldn't gain much weight if she ate nutritious meals. Wanchocho asked, "Don't you think I'm too fat?" Qingjun said, "It doesn't matter if you're fat." In the next second, Qingjun was hit by the hammer as usual. Watching Wanchocho's back disappear angrily, Qingjun was lost in thought. Was this a sign of grumpiness during pregnancy? Sure enough, Wanchocho's temper became more and more erratic after pregnancy. What he didn't know was that this had nothing to do with pregnancy at all. As a woman, when she asked this question, she only hoped that the man would answer, "Nonsense, you're not fat at all," instead of comforting her that it didn't matter if she was fat. Qingjun certainly didn't understand Wanchocho's psychology, so he didn't realize that there was anything wrong with his words. After a period of time, Elder Meng's wife asked Wanchocho to meet together. She looked at Wanchocho with a yin-yin smile and said, "The baby seems to be growing very fast. Look, your belly is a little bulging." Wanchocho calmly touched her belly. "This is actually fat." Elder Meng's wife, as her belly gradually grew bigger, Wanchocho's mood plummeted every day. She always felt that there was neither light nor heavy weight in her belly. She was annoyed that she didn't dare to turn over in her sleep. Occasionally, she wanted Qingjun to hug her to sleep, but he couldn't do it. Sometimes, she was inexplicably irritable and annoyed. In short, she walked on the edge of being in a very bad mood and being in a good mood every day. Qingjun waited silently until 3 months had passed. At 12 o'clock, he stretched out his long arms, held Xianxia in his arms, and kissed her on the face. Xianxia was in a daze. What are you doing? Qingjun, it's been 3 months. Xianxia was half awake. Not interested. Qingjun lowered his head and sat alone at the head of the bed, ignoring Xianxia who was sleeping soundly behind him. Her light breathing sound was so clear in the night. Qingjun, alas. In the 4th month of Xiao's pregnancy, Qingjun's mood plummeted. Pregnant women tried to reduce body radiation as much as possible, so naturally, they didn't touch computers and mobile phones. Under the persuasion of a group of people, Xiao had to put down the work at hand and go home to rest for the time being. Only she, as the boss's wife, could enjoy such a long vacation. She was bored lying at home, and she didn't expect that Old Wei would contact her through Old Meng. Xiao had attended several of their gatherings, and she still respected this big boss. Although he was Old Meng's friend and she called him the same way, he was still a senior, and she didn't dare to neglect him. They talked for a long time, and Xiao finally understood that Mr. Wei was actually trying to persuade her to change careers. It wasn't really a career change, but a career change from games to animation. Old Wei had a studio that was starting a new project, and he had always hoped that Xiao could join him. Now was a good opportunity. Xiao chatted with him for a long time, and in the end, Old Wei's eyes were shining, and he was dancing with joy. He didn't look like a man in his 50s or 60s, and he talked about his project like a child. She decided to think about it for a few days. Qingjun's face was expressionless. He was very unhappy that his wife was being poached, but no matter what decision Xiao made, he wouldn't stop her. Xiao's back was sore. She didn't have edema, and now that she drank a few mouthfuls of water at night, her legs were a little swollen the next day. She put her legs on Qingjun's lap and leaned lazily against the cushion. Qingjun slowly peeled nuts and became the background. I heard that there are some training classes for expectant mothers, I'll sign up too. Qingjun, what's it about? Probably general knowledge about taking care of children. Hearing this, Qingjun was silent for a long time. He glanced at the cabinet where the cardboard box was locked and said slowly, I don't think it's necessary. Xiao? She followed Qingjun's gaze. Xiao said expressionlessly, don't tell me you've already thought of who to give it to. Qingjun's ideal candidates came to mind. He hesitated for a moment and said, I haven't decided yet. Xiao, she began to worry about her future children. After struggling for a few days, Xiao finally decided on a pregnancy training class. There were early education classes, yoga classes, mother and baby care classes. Xiao was dazzled by the variety of classes. The class she wanted to attend was not far from her home, about 2 kilometers away. The price of the class was more expensive and there were fewer people, so it was more convenient for Xiao to attend. Qingjun wanted to pick Xiao up before he could rest assured, but she refused. It was not because she had a good self-awareness. When she appeared in public, it was enough to attract attention. If she appeared in Qingjun's presence, it would only divert everyone's attention. The distance was not far, and the driver would make a fuss about it. Qingjun's appearance would only make Xiao the talk of a group of people. In order to make Qingjun agree, Xiao's attitude was extremely good. She acted coquettishly and took the initiative to give Qingjun a kiss. Finally, Xiao successfully signed up for the class and mixed in with a group of people. She had no makeup on her face and was simple and beautiful. She wore a sportswear and her hair was much longer, tied up high. Even so, when Xiao entered the room, she still received a lot of attention. She greeted everyone politely. The pregnant women in the room had big and small bellies. Xiao stood in the last row, and the few pregnant women beside her were extremely curious and asked her how old she was and how long she had been pregnant. After just one class, everyone became friendly and called Xiao Little Ruan. They even asked her to have afternoon tea together next time. A woman in her 30s asked with a smile, what does your husband do? Xianxia was stunned for a moment and said perfunctorily, he's just an ordinary programmer. Pfft, don't be funny. How can an ordinary salary support someone like you? Xianxia smiled. Something like that. I saved some money. On the one hand, these pregnant women were here for the class, and on the other hand, they were here to establish a social relationship. Their husbands were more or less well-to-do. Once they got to know each other, they could more or less help each other in the future. It was all beneficial for each other. Only Xianxia was vague. Although they were very curious, Xianxia kept her mouth shut and did not reveal any information. He followed the coach to meditate and stretch his body. Sure enough, he felt much better recently. His body was less swollen. Even the number of times Qingjun was scolded had decreased a lot. Fortunately, the other pregnant women were tactful. After all, they were more or less sophisticated. Before they figured out Xianxia's background, of course, they didn't dare to speak carelessly and make her angry. That would make them seem too rude. On this day, the moment she stepped out of the door, the cold wind blew, causing Xianxia to shrink her neck. She raised her head and looked at the gloomy weather. Clouds were rolling in the gray sky. The weather forecast did not say that it would rain, but Xianxia felt that the air was damp before the rain. Sure enough, halfway through the class, raindrops fell on the glass, leaving behind muddy trails. Taking advantage of the break, the coach politely asked everyone to contact the car in advance if they needed it, or the company had staff who could send them home. The pregnant woman beside him was the wife of a small boss. She had a car to fetch her to and from work, so naturally, he was not worried. She sat on the yoga mat and found that Xianxia was also sitting comfortably. She couldn't help but ask, "How are you going back?" Xianxia didn't want to explain too much in case she thought too much. "Someone will pick me up on the way." "Oh, is it reliable? Do you need my driver to send you back?" No. Xianxia quickly waved her hand. A pregnant woman sitting on the yoga mat in the front row smiled and said, "It's good to have a private car. Although my husband is a middle-level manager, he always drives himself." They exchanged pleasantries with each other and calmly revealed the car number of their family. Naturally, there was another round of compliments. Xianxia found it funny, but she just sat on the yoga mat and didn't say anything. Everyone had basically contacted each other. The coach also returned to the classroom and prepared to continue. At this moment, a phone suddenly rang, attracting everyone's attention. They looked at each other and asked whose phone it was. Xianxia, who was sitting still like a mountain, stood up awkwardly. "Sorry, it's mine." She took out the phone from her bag and stood in the corner of the back row. Qingjun's slow voice sounded from the other end of the phone. "It's almost over." "Yes. Why are you suddenly calling me?" The classroom was too quiet. Obviously, a few pregnant women were very curious about her. They pricked up their ears all the time, making Xianxia a little uncomfortable and "Cover the phone. I'm off work. I'll pick you up on the way." As soon as Qingjun said this, Xianxia subconsciously refused. "No, I have Lao Lu. Tunan and the others said that they want to have a meal together." "Lao Lu, take me there." In order to avoid too much gossip, it was better for Qingjun not to come over. Whether it was the identity of the Jiaqing boss being exposed or their extreme curiosity about Qingjun, it would only make Xianxia tired of dealing with it. She just wanted to quietly go to class and was too lazy to deal with other things. After hanging up the phone, Xianxia turned around and bumped into a few people's bright eyes. "Who is it, your husband? Could it be a little lover?" "Ha ha ha, just kidding." Xianxia sat on the yoga mat. "Nothing, it's my husband." "What does your husband look like? Do you have a photo? I'm so curious." "He sounds very young." Xianxia waved her hand. "He doesn't like to take photos. There are no photos on his phone." "Not even a group photo?" "No." She refused directly. They were a little disappointed but didn't say anything. After class, a few men stood in the hall on the first floor one after another, holding umbrellas in their hands. When Xianxia appeared in the hall, a few people were stunned. Lao Lu also stood in the corner of the hall, holding an umbrella. When he saw Wan Qiuqiu, he was very polite. Wan Qiuqiu smiled and said, "Let's go." "Okay." Lao Lu held the umbrella for her and tried to tilt it towards Wan Qiuqiu, but kept a polite enough distance. Wan Qiuqiu didn't expect the car to be parked at the door. Parking was not allowed here. She didn't know how the driver communicated with the guard. Maybe this car would be seen by the curious women behind her. Wan Qiuqiu sighed silently in her heart when her plan was suddenly disrupted. However, it was too late to say anything now. She could only get in the car. The car parked outside was a luxury car worth millions. When they saw Wan Qiuqiu get in the car naturally, they couldn't help but be surprised. The rest of the people were all smart. How could they think that Lao Lu was an elder in Wan Qiuqiu's family? When they connected the fact that Wan Qiuqiu answered the phone in a secretive manner and was unwilling to reveal her husband's name and appearance, they couldn't help but think too much. In their circle, couples played their own games and cheated on each other. They had seen all kinds of tricks. Wan Qiuqiu was most likely someone else's lover. Because she was young and beautiful, she was arrogant and didn't want to show it. When they thought about it this way, those who were unhappy in their hearts naturally felt better. As a mistress, no matter how rich she was just a small wife without a title. She could be kicked away at any time. After she had a child, she was no longer delicious. When Wan Qiuqiu got in the car, she was shocked. Qingjun was sitting in the back of the car. "Why are you here?" Qingjun looked away and said, "To see if there are any wild men." Wan Qiuqiu. "Do you feel uncomfortable if you don't get beaten up for a day?" She wanted to find a wild man, but the key was that she was used to seeing Qingjun's face. Even the celebrities on TV couldn't compare to him. Wan Qiuqiu used to be infatuated with him occasionally, but now, no matter what kind of man she saw, she was completely indifferent. "Who asked Qingwan to be so good-looking?" Wan Qiuqiu pinched his chin. "How was work today?" Qingjun let her pinch him and suddenly sighed. "Not very good." "Wan Qiuqiu? Problems at work?" Qingjun, "The chicken stewed with mushrooms in the cafeteria tastes terrible." Wan Qiuqiu, if she was the cafeteria's chef, she would probably cry out loud. Why was this guy becoming more and more picky with his food? He used to be someone who could easily survive on instant noodles and all kinds of puffed food. Sure enough, she had raised him to be picky. After a small gathering with Tu Nan and the others, Wan Qiuqiu felt a little uncomfortable halfway through. Her stomach felt sour and she wanted to vomit, so Qingjun took her back early. Along the way, Wan Qiuqiu leaned lazily on his shoulder and was in a daze. The two of them didn't have much time to see each other recently. Qingjun was busy with work, and Wan Qiuqiu was busy with the baby. After returning home and chatting, Wan Qiuqiu began to feel sleepy and fell asleep early in bed. Since the beginning of her pregnancy, Qingjun's behavior made Wan Qiuqiu worried that he really didn't like children. Which father would prepare a cardboard box for his child and choose a good family? Wan Qiuqiu's leg rested on Qingjun's lap. Qingjun said, "Why are there still a few more months?" Wan Qiuqiu, ? I really want to eat the food you cook. Wan Qiuqiu. Can't you think of something else? This made her suspect that in Qingjun's eyes, she was just a high-class chef. Qingjun, oh, I'm about to choose a good candidate. Wan Qiuqiu, she was silent for a moment. Suddenly, Wan Qiuqiu asked, "Do you really not like children? Did you only agree because I said I wanted one?" Qingjun glanced at her and said slowly, "Don't think too much." Wan Qiuqiu was about to continue speaking when the little life in her stomach suddenly moved. Her body stiffened, and she exclaimed nervously, "It's moving, it's moving. Listen." Qingjun, who had a look of disinterest on his face just now, quickly pressed his cheek against Wan Qiuqiu's stomach, which surprised Wan Qiuqiu. However, as soon as he pressed his cheek against hers, her stomach immediately stopped moving. After 5 to 6 minutes, there was still no movement. The atmosphere began to become a little awkward. Wan Qiuqiu also began to wonder if the child in her stomach already had thoughts and could understand Qingjun's words, which was why it didn't want to communicate with him. Wan Qiuqiu, Qingjun, he slowly sat up straight and moved Wan Qiuqiu's legs to the sofa, leaving Wan Qiuqiu with his back to her. Wan Qiuqiu was stunned. Where are you going? Qingjun replied faintly, to contact the next family in advance. Wan Qiuqiu hurriedly stopped him from contacting Qingjun. Although she was very curious about the candidate in mind, it was better not to ask about this kind of thing. The direct result of Qingjun not hearing any fetal movement was that the cardboard box was padded with 2 layers of newspaper. That's right. As a father, Qingjun, who never cared about details, not only did he not put a towel on it, but he also took the company's newspaper, casually crumpled it a few times, and pressed it into the cardboard box. Wan Qiuqiu supported her waist and watched the fun at the side. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Next time when the stomach moves, I'll call you quickly. You don't have to do this. Yes, but it's necessary. Wan Qiuqiu, fine, she could not persuade Qingjun anymore. Wan Qiuqiu touched her bulging belly and asked with a smile, what if it's a cute daughter? Can you bear to give it away? Qingjun paused in his action of spreading the newspaper. He pondered for a moment and said, if it's a daughter, put an extra layer of newspaper. If it's a son, 2 layers of newspaper are enough. Wan Qiuqiu, other fathers had already begun to think about naming their children and buying clothes for their children. Qingjun, on the other hand, was outrageous. Every day, he only thought about giving the child to others. Qingjun spread the newspaper and solemnly placed the cardboard box in the cabinet. Wan Qiuqiu watched his series of actions throughout the whole process and suddenly felt that the cardboard box might be too small. Maybe when the time came, she would throw both father and son into the cardboard box and send them thousands of miles away. Qingjun ended the argument and very naturally hugged Wan Qiuqiu's waist, as if she and the child in her belly were 2 separate entities, and it did not prevent him from liking one and not the other. The next day, when Wan Qiuqiu went to class, she could clearly feel the change in the atmosphere of the other people's treatment of her. Some were still friendly, some were more enthusiastic, but there were also some who showed subtle avoidance of suspicion. When they took a break in the middle, they heard a woman sitting in the front row say angrily, I hate lovers the most in my life. The mistress still wants to climb up the social ladder. This kind of woman is useless and shameless. That's right. Hey, you can't say that. No one can explain the relationship between husband and wife. I have my own lovers around me. If there are lovers, there are lovers. It's so open in this era. The elderly woman sitting next to Wan Qiuqiu looked at Wan Qiuqiu with pity. Wan Qiuqiu's mind was wandering. She wondered if the child would be a boy or a girl, and what kind of name would sound good. When she thought of a name, she could not get rid of it. Wan Qiu quickly shook her. Definitely not Xianxia. Not even if he was beaten to death, she did not distract herself, she was even a lot to evens, to sssss to talk. Of the was. Of's words. Of them's to sss. After today's class, the coach stood in front of the pregnant women and said with a smile, raising a child is not a matter for one person. In the next stage, I hope that all of your husbands can participate. Men should also learn from this. Someone questioned her. Mises. Our children all have nannies to take care of them. Even I don't have to work hard, let alone my husband. The coach was a middle-aged woman. She smiled and said, on the one hand, we can cultivate the relationship between husband and wife. On the other hand, we can get to know each other. It's only an hour's. If you have time, you can come. If you don't force yourself. Wan Qiuqiu was in a dilemma. She thought it was necessary for Qingjun to come to the class, but Qingjun could not come. The coach would count the number of people who could come at night. In the past, at least half of the people could come. It was not a waste of such a high entry fee. Wan Qiuqiu finally decided to teach Qingjun after she learned it. The next class was on Sunday. Wan Qiuqiu stayed in bed until noon. Qingjun also stayed in bed until noon. He touched her belly from time to time. For some reason, Wan Qiuqiu's mind was filled with the tragic scene of Qingjun waiting for the melon to ripen. She shuddered. Qingjun asked, are you cold? Wan Qiuqiu curled up in bed. I'm fine. Qingjun asked, drink more hot water? Wan Qiuqiu said. Don't make me angry. Logically speaking, the driver did not work on weekends. Xianxia had forgotten about this and asked him if he was free. The driver said embarrassedly that his child's birthday was coming, so he might be a little late. Xianxia did not want to disturb their family's rare happy time. After rejecting him, she sent him a big red packet and asked him to buy a birthday gift for the child. It was not far away. She could take a taxi there. Qingjun overheard their conversation and said, "I'll send you there." "It's okay. I'm afraid you'll run away." Xianxia said. "I want to run away, but I'm pregnant. Where can I run to?" She would probably pant after walking a few steps. Qingjun suddenly felt that he did not dislike having a child. In the end, Xianxia sat in Qingjun's car. Both cars were not cheap. If other people saw them, who knew what they would think? When they reached the entrance of the building, Xianxia asked Qingjun to stop the car. She got out of the car consciously. Before she could stand still, she asked Qingjun to leave quickly. Qingjun stared at her quietly. He began to wonder if Xianxia really had a wild man outside, or if her feelings for him had faded and she despised him. He fastened his seat belt and got out of the car. Xianxia asked, "What are you doing?" Qingjun said slowly, taking a look. As he spoke, a couple happened to pass by. Their faces were cold and their eyes were cold. From afar, one would think that they were going to get a divorce. Xianxia hurriedly tried to get into the car, but Qingjun grabbed her collar and stopped her from moving. Their movements attracted the other party's attention. One of them was the woman who had mocked Xianxia yesterday. Her eyes first fell on Qingjun. She could not hide her shock and amazement. For a moment, she was stunned for a few seconds. The man next to her looked even worse. He looked like a sweet potato that had been left out for many days and was growing moldy. Xianxia felt uncomfortable looking at him. If Qingjun looked at her with such an expression all day long, she would definitely act out what a grumpy pregnant woman was like. You guys, Xiaoruan?" Her eyes finally moved away from Qingjun, but she saw Xianxia trying to avoid her. Xianxia greeted her awkwardly. "Oh my God, is this your husband?" She looked in disbelief. "Is he a celebrity? Or a model?" "Neither." Xianxia coughed and pushed Qingjun go away. "I'll call you when I'm done." "Where are you going? Didn't you say that you and your wife would study together today?" Noticing Xianxia's avoidance, the other party was obviously thinking too much. Her husband took advantage of her pregnancy to find a beautiful female university student. She was angry but did not dare to say anything. She was full of anger and had nowhere to vent. Coincidentally, she met a soft persimmon like Xianxia. The man standing next to her was young and beautiful. He was not angry at Xianxia's behavior. Xianxia did not want to see people, so he could not be her sugar daddy. Who would treat their sugar daddy like this? But the two of them were close together without avoiding suspicion. The man was holding her waist. Their familiar and intimate posture could not be any other relationship. Then, it was possible that Xianxia was two-timing, or she was secretly raising a little wolf dog. The couple's thoughts were scattered. They looked at Xianxia as if they had seen some kind of ugly secret, which made Xianxia feel a headache. Qingjun, who was standing next to her, asked her, "Why didn't you tell me about the couple's activity?" Xianxia really could not explain it clearly. "It's not a very important thing, so it doesn't matter if you come or not." The pregnant woman standing opposite her smiled faintly. The coach said that it can improve the relationship between husband and wife, and also expand the social circle. Qingjun was not interested in social circles, but improving the relationship between husband and wife obviously touched his point. He said, "I'm going." "Xianxia. Do you want to wait for me downstairs?" Qingjun looked at Xianxia with his dark eyes, letting Xianxia know that there was no need to think about it downstairs. Xianxia sighed. "Okay." Everyone came early today, and there were already people chatting with each other. It was obviously a relaxing couple study, but some people were wearing bright clothes, and some were wearing suits and had their hair done. Only Xianxia and Qingjun were wearing sweaters and loose trousers. One did not take it seriously, and the other hesitated all the time. She just wanted to put Qingjun in a place where he could not see. When the two of them entered the room, the other people's eyes turned to them, and they suddenly fell silent. If Ruan Qiuqiu's peerless appearance, which was more restrained because of her pregnancy, was enough to move people, Qingjun next to her was a huge killer weapon. The group of women were dumbfounded, and they even forgot social etiquette and looked at him in a daze. In contrast, the husbands, who were also men, were unhappy. Qingjun frowned slightly. There are so many people. He did not like to be in a place with so many strangers. Why don't we do it one-on-one? It's a waste to do it one-on-one. There's nothing wrong with occasionally seeing people. Ruan Qiuqiu's eyes lit up and said, "It's not too late for you to go back now." Qingjun inadvertently blocked her behind him, blocking all kinds of gazes. No. Ruan Qiuqiu, this couple was probably a mudslide. Others were chatting enthusiastically, but one of them did not want to mention it, and the other was too lazy to even look at them. In addition, a couple who were just a few steps away said a few words, intentionally or unintentionally. Now, everyone knew that Qingjun was Ruan Qiuqiu's gigolo. Ruan Qiuqiu was still unaware of their outrageous speculation, but a few pregnant women who did not bring their husbands quietly walked to Ruan Qiuqiu's side. They glanced at Qingjun enviously and whispered to Ruan Qiuqiu, "Are there any more resources? Will it be very expensive?" Ruan Qiuqiu was confused. What resources? Why couldn't she understand what they were talking about? Some people despised the rude behavior of bringing their own man over, while others did not understand the situation and did not want to talk. Unknowingly, the two of them were separated, and Ruan Qiuqiu was at ease. Qingjun played with her hair casually, not caring about what other people thought. Occasionally, someone came up to talk to him, but he glanced at them uninterestedly and continued to pretend to be deaf and dumb. The husband and wife were completely forgotten in a corner, isolated from the world. Ruan Qiuqiu thought that perhaps she could change classes after today's class. Just then, Ruan Qiuqiu caught a familiar keyword. She listened attentively to their movements and heard them say enviously that one of them had a husband who was a Jiaqing executive and would be here soon. Ruan Qiuqiu's heart tightened. It's over, it's over. Although Qingjun's photo was not circulated to the outside world, almost all the executives had seen him. She was about to pull Qingjun out of the door when she saw a couple coming in. The expectant mother was proudly holding her husband's hand. The two of them seemed to have a good relationship, and the husband was very careful when supporting his wife. Immediately, some people came forward to greet them, but they were all politely rejected by the other party. The back and forth became even more lively. Ruan Qiuqiu was about to pull Qingjun out of the door, but she was stopped by the pregnant woman who they had bumped into downstairs earlier. "Where are you going? The class is about to start." The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. Then, they saw the Jiaqing executive, who was at ease and had a sense of propriety, looking at the two of them with his mouth agape. After a while, he greeted them nervously. As soon as he spoke, the others were stunned. "Chairman, madam, you're here too?" Ruan Qiuqiu said in despair, "I was wrong. I shouldn't have signed up for this kind of class in the first place. I wouldn't have fallen into such an embarrassing situation. My identity wouldn't have been exposed, and I wouldn't have let others find out that I'm pregnant." Qingjun, who was sitting in the chair next to her, calmly picked up the soft toy baby, pinched the baby's belly, and squeezed the baby's hands. He ignored the other people's sneaky glances. Ruan Qiuqiu grabbed his sleeve and whispered, "Do you think the whole company will know that I'm pregnant the next day?" "Qingjun, let me teach you a way." Ruan Qiuqiu, "What?" "Threaten him to not tell anyone about it." She looked up and the two of them looked at each other. Ruan Qiuqiu was expressionless, and Qingjun didn't forget to pinch the baby's feet. "Are you serious?" "I'm kidding." The coach was seriously teaching everyone how to quickly get the foreign object out if the baby choked. Following the coach's instructions, Ruan Qiuqiu put the baby on her knees and patted the baby's back with a little force. Qingjun watched carefully. When it was the men's turn, Qingjun skillfully took the baby and put it on his knees. He patted it gently. With a paw sound, the toy baby's head fell directly to the ground and rolled far away, scaring the other pregnant women and making them scream. Ruan Qiuqiu was also shocked. She quickly picked up the baby's head and put it back on while apologizing. The whole scene was too bloody and cruel. In a trance, Xianxia felt the baby in her belly kicking hard, just wanting to break free from this evil cage. Xianxia glared at Qingjun. You used so much force. Did you want to kill him? Qingjun, yes. Xianxia, question mark. Although the class was only less than an hour, it felt like a year to Xianxia. After the class ended, Xianxia pulled Qingjun out of the door without waiting for the others to cautiously try to talk to her. Qingjun followed behind and said, "Change the coach." "I know." Xianxia muttered, "I didn't think too much at first. I didn't want to break away from ordinary social groups." However, he always forgot that she wasn't an ordinary person. People had to think twice before interacting with her. Every day, she went to work diligently. When she returned home, she would buy groceries in their small 2-bedroom, 2-living-room ordinary residential building. She would not deliberately spend a lot of money at the supermarket. The sky-high amount in the bank card was just a number to Xianxia because she might not be able to spend even a fraction of it in her lifetime. Thinking of this, Xianxia felt a little dejected. She was extremely sensitive during her pregnancy. Thinking back to what had happened just now, she lowered her head and sat sadly in the back of the private car. "Did I embarrass you?" Although the Jiaqing executive was respectful on the surface, it was hard to say what he would say behind his back. Qingjun sat in the driver's seat and was about to start the car when he heard Xianxia's dejected words. He held the steering wheel with one hand and turned around to look at Xianxia sitting in the back seat. He spoke slowly, "Come here." Xianxia was stunned for a moment, but she still followed his words and moved closer to Qingjun. Like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, he leaned forward and kissed Xianxia's lips. This caught Xianxia off guard. She let out a cry and her cheeks turned red. Qingjun asked, "Do you still have wild thoughts?" Xianxia, "Yes?" He lowered his voice. "This is just a very small matter. Don't blame yourself." After that day, Xianxia stopped going to the training class. Qingjun arranged one-on-one classes for her, and he could teach her directly. Xianxia felt much more relaxed. Sure enough, she shouldn't force herself to fit into a circle that she couldn't fit into. She learned her lesson and never mentioned any group activities again. She had enough friends to hang out with, play, and socialize with. The executive she met by accident kept his mouth shut even without her reminders. Xianxia expected that the news would spread throughout the company, but it didn't happen. There were rumors in the company that she was pregnant, but no one could confirm it. It was still a mystery until now. Guyu's wife's belly was much bigger than Xianxia's. Xianxia was both envious and frightened when she heard that they were twins. Xianxia couldn't help but let her imagination run wild when she thought of the 2 children in her thin belly. She heard the sound of balloons exploding on TV. At night, she would dream that her belly was getting bigger and bigger, and she was faintly on the verge of exploding. Those who were experienced saw her belly and said that it was a girl. Xianxia didn't know how to tell whether her belly was round or pointed, but when others said so, she couldn't help but look forward to it. She hoped that she could give birth to a cute girl. If a boy was like Qingjun, the 2 of them would talk nonsense every day. Wouldn't she be annoyed to death? It was better to have a girl. If the 2 of them spoiled her, Qingjun would definitely be more patient with his daughter. Xianxia could already imagine the scene of Qingjun holding his daughter with gentle eyes, rubbing her little face, and the 2 of them playing together warmly. When she thought of this, she dreamed of a pink and tender little girl with a pair of dark eyes and a childish voice at night. Xianxia's heart almost melted when she saw it. In the morning, Xianxia leaned in Qingjun's arms and said lazily with her belly propped up, "Let's buy clothes for the children later. Buy more pink clothes." Qingjun didn't care about the color of the clothes. He didn't care much about what he wore, let alone the children. As long as they weren't naked and met the most basic needs of clothing, it was enough for him. Qingjun responded. Xianxia asked, "Have you thought of a name?" Qingjun sleepily rubbed his eyes and said in a nasal voice, "What name?" "The children will be born in 2 months. You should be more careful." Xianxia pretended to bite his arm. "Fortunately, I've already prepared a lot of names. If you can't think of one, we'll pick one. Qingjun said, let's call them Xianxia. Yuan Qiuqiu glared at him. Don't even think about it. After receiving Yuan Qiuqiu's brainwashing, Qingjun pondered for a moment and felt that having a daughter was probably a good thing. It was better than having a son. He finally stopped worrying about how many layers of newspapers to stack in the cardboard box in the cabinet. If it was a daughter, it probably wouldn't be necessary. As for the name of the child, there was still no conclusion until she was about to give birth. Yuan Qiuqiu's temper was worn out. In addition, her belly was getting bigger day by day. It was heavy and uncomfortable. She couldn't eat or sleep well. Yuan Qiuqiu was tormented and in a state of anger every day. Even drawing pictures for Old Wei couldn't save her from her extremely irritable mood. When she was irritated, sometimes she would draw dozens of pictures a day. Even she didn't know what she was drawing. She just wanted to throw her body into outer space. She suddenly felt that it was a blessing not to have a few extra pounds of meat in her body. Qingjun looked at it and felt distressed, but there was nothing he could do. He thought that once the child was born, he would get a vasectomy and not have any more children. One was enough. After looking forward to it for a long time, it was finally the due date. Yuan Qiuqiu's eyes were filled with tears every day when she looked at the date. It was as if a prisoner who had been in prison for 10 years was about to be released. She also had to unload the goods and be relaxed and free. Yuan Qiuqiu had never looked forward to going to the hospital earlier. Several nannies and nutritionists took good care of her throughout the whole process, so Yuan Qiuqiu didn't feel annoyed at all. She still remembered that when she was young in her previous life, her mother was still very gentle to her. She would occasionally mention that when she was pregnant with her, she cooked and washed clothes with a big belly. The moment before the labor pains, she was still boiling soup. Just thinking about this, Yuan Qiuqiu couldn't help but cover her bulging belly. For a moment, Yuan Qiuqiu suddenly didn't blame her mother. She had also experienced the pain of childbirth and had been a qualified wife and mother. When she was young, her love for herself was real. Perhaps all the feelings in the world couldn't be summed up simply with the words love and not love. Yuan Qiuqiu closed her eyes and gently stroked her belly. She would work hard to be a qualified mother. At this moment, Yuan Qiuqiu suddenly felt a throbbing pain in her belly. Having experienced it several times, she didn't panic at all, even though the pain made her face turn pale and her back was drenched in cold sweat. Qingjun had just finished showering and was wiping his hair with a towel when he saw Yuan Qiuqiu leaning against the bed with a painful expression. What's wrong? Is your stomach hurting? It's okay, it's okay. It should still be labor pains. Yuan Qiuqiu waved her hand reluctantly. There was still a week or two before the due date, so it was probably another false alarm. The labor pains were so severe that Yuan Qiuqiu was tortured to the point that she let out a gasp. It felt as if the lower half of her body had been cut open, and it also felt as if a ton of hammer had hit her belly heavily. She was in so much pain that she tightly clutched the bed sheets, and her pajamas were soaked in sweat. I can't, Yuan Qiuqiu's voice was already sobbing. It seems like I'm really going to give birth. Qingjun! After being dragged to the hospital, Yuan Qiuqiu lay weakly on the hospital bed. She was in so much pain that she couldn't speak. She was gasping for breath as if she was on the verge of death. The doctor checked a few fingers. After a long time, he shook his head and said, "You'll have to wait a little longer." They waited for another 2 hours. Yuan Qiuqiu couldn't help but start crying. She couldn't control herself. Her heart was filled with fear and grievance. She was already in so much pain before giving birth. How painful would it be when she really gave birth? Qingjun stood by the bed and comforted her in a low voice over and over again. He didn't forget to feed her some food so that she would have the strength to give birth later. Yuan Qiuqiu gritted her teeth and ate the food that Qingjun fed her. As she ate, she suddenly bit Qingjun's finger. She didn't dare to use too much strength because she was in so much pain. She was afraid that she would bite Qingjun's finger, so she only left a shallow bite mark. Yuan Qiuqiu cried and said vaguely, "I'm in so much pain. I won't give birth again." Qingjun had never seen Yuan Qiuqiu so sad and painful. He, who had always been calm, was silent and put his finger into her mouth. You'll have strength after a few bites. Wan Qiuqiu cried even harder. Her tears soaked his hand. I can't bear to. There was another burst of pain. Finally, she received the notice that she was ready to give birth. At this moment, Wan Qiuqiu just wanted to give birth to the child as soon as possible. Her whole mind was in a daze. Qingjun, who was asked to leave, stood at the door of the delivery room. He listened to the nurse's encouragement and Wan Qiuqiu's painful moans coming from inside. When Tu Nan and the others heard the sound and rushed over, they saw Qingjun standing in the corridor with no expression on his face. Wan Qiuqiu was still trying to give birth in the delivery room. Her voice was frightening. Tu Nan really admired Qingjun. At this time, he could still calmly wait for his wife to give birth. He really deserved to be called a boss. He handed Qingjun a bottle of water and asked Qingjun to take a sip. Qingjun reached out his hand and held the mineral water. At this time, Tu Nan saw clearly that the water in the plastic bottle had been shaking. It turned out that Qingjun's fingertips were trembling because of excessive tension and anxiety. Tu Nan said carefully that, "Boss, don't be too nervous. There will be no problem." Ever since he met Qingjun, this was the first time Tu Nan advised him like this. Not to mention Qingjun, even he himself felt strange. How could nervousness be related to Qingjun? You must be kidding, Qingjun's face was expressionless. I'm not nervous. Although he said this, the mineral water bottle in his hand was on the verge of being crushed. Tu Nanxiang, after more than 10 years, finally had a reason to laugh at Qingjun. But this reason was too arrogant, and he could not help but be envious. He did not know when he would be a father, but right now, he had to get married first before proceeding to the next step. They were all waiting in the corridor. Only then did Wan Qiuqiu understand that childbirth was a woman's gate to hell. Even with modern technology, it was still impossible to completely avoid pain and all kinds of sequelae. Before this, she had considered a painless birth or a water birth. Unfortunately, on one hand, she was allergic to drugs, and on the other hand, she had a physical problem. In the end, all of these were rejected. If it were not for the strong sequelae of a caesarean section, Wan Qiuqiu would rather choose to use a knife. She was tired and sweating, and the nurse was still asking her to exert more force. She was using all her strength, and every toe was exerting force. She was exerting so much force that she was about to cramp. Finally, Wan Qiuqiu heard the nurse's surprised voice, "It's out, it's out. Put in more effort." After a few seconds, it was as if a few tons of cargo had been unloaded on the deck. Exhausted, Wan Qiuqiu fell on the bed and listened to their congratulations. Some time ago, the fetal position was not right, and Wan Qiuqiu was really afraid that the child would come out first. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. She collapsed on the bed, so tired that she could not open her eyes. She just wanted to have a good sleep. But at this moment, Wan Qiuqiu had a more important question that urgently needed an answer. She tried hard to open her eyes and asked weakly, Is it a daughter?" "It's a little prince." "Congratulations." "Little prince, son, future dogman?" Wan Qiuqiu's face was full of tears. The kind laughter of several nurses came from the side. "Look, mother is so excited that she's crying." As a new father, Qingjun, who should have checked on his child first, strode to Wan Qiuqiu's bedside and held her hand tightly. In a trance, Wan Qiuqiu almost fell asleep. Stimulated by Qingjun's cold fingers, she could not help but tremble. Why was Qingjun's hand as cold as a popsicle? Wan Qiuqiu struggled to open her eyes. In her blurry vision, she could only see Qingjun looking at her. His face was pale and his eyes were red. When Wan Qiuqiu saw it clearly, she was both sad and amused. She tried hard to reach out and touch him. Qingjun reacted quickly and leaned forward so that Wan Qiuqiu's fingertips could touch his cheek. Her fingers were wet with sweat as she gently touched Qingjun's face. Even his voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. "You're a father now, you can't cry." She had only seen Qingjun on the verge of crying twice, and both times were because of her. Qingjun held her hand tightly and asked in a low voice, "Is it very painful? Do you need to drink some water? Do you feel uncomfortable in your body? Don't be afraid, the doctors are here." They will definitely make you recover as well as before. It would have been better if he did not say that. As soon as he said that, Xianxia choked and tears welled up in her eyes. It's a boy, Qingjun was stunned. Although he hoped that it was a girl, Xianxia was more important at the moment. Don't you like boys? No. I bought a lot of pink clothes. There were also small hair clips, bows, and small skirts for girls. It was enough for the child to wear until she graduated from kindergarten. Boys and girls were the same, but she had been prepared and thought that it was a little princess. The result was the opposite, so Xianxia could not react for a while. Qingjun said seriously, "The cardboard box is ready." As soon as he said that, Xianxia almost sat up in shock. She thought that Qingjun was just saying. She did not expect that he really intended to give the child to a good family. Xianxia quickly said, "No, no." Qingjun patted her head and said slowly, "I'm just kidding." If it were not for the fact that she did not even have the strength to glare at him, Xianxia really wanted to hit him. After saying a few words, Xianxia was so tired that she did not want to talk anymore. She lay down in the ward to rest. If the doctor did not come over and politely remind Qingjun to let the pregnant woman rest quietly, he almost forgot that he had a newborn son. Tunan and the others surrounded the baby and carefully looked at it. Each of them was beaming with joy. Before Qingjun agreed, they began to claim to be the godfather and almost quarreled over who should be the eldest, second, and third child. Qingjun walked to the front and carefully looked at the newborn child. Tunan sighed and praised, "You are indeed a father. Look at how steady the boss is and how gentle his gaze is." As soon as he finished speaking, Qingjun frowned. "Did you get the wrong baby? Why is he so ugly? He's even uglier than the models in cheap 3D games." The rest of the people, it was better not to have such a father. The wrinkled baby fell asleep quietly and did not hear his father's evaluation of him. Qingjun looked at him for a moment and felt that he was slightly more pleasing to the eye. At this moment, he just wanted to go back and take out the box that he had treasured for a long time. At this moment, the baby, who was still quiet just now, suddenly snorted a few times. Under Qingjun's calm gaze, he wailed loudly and his voice shook the sky. Qingjun, perhaps, a good family was his final destination. After Xianxia woke up from her sleep, she was much more energetic. She lay on the bed and the nurse carried the baby over. The baby had just cried and was sleeping soundly. Xianxia found it interesting and could not help but touch the baby's little face. The baby, who was sleeping, snorted and waved his hand a few times. The group of people around them also laughed happily. Xianxia glanced at Qingjun and asked, "Finally, you don't want to give him to a good family?" Qingjun said calmly, "I can consider it." "What good family?" Fu Zicheng asked. He didn't want to have a child at first. He wanted to give him to a good family after the baby was born. He was still considering among the 3 candidates. Xianxia found it funny when she mentioned this. Everyone's train of thought instantly deviated. Tunan patted his chest and said, "I'm definitely one of the candidates. There's no need to ask. It's okay. If you want to go out and play one day, I'm definitely willing to sacrifice my time to take good care of the child." Xianxia was instantly silent. Tunan was anxious. "Sister-in-law, this is your fault. Are you doubting me? Do I still need to talk about my ability? Boss, am I right? I've been with you for more than 10 years. Are you still worried about me?" Based on Xianxia's understanding of Qingjun and Tunan, anyone could be one of the candidates. However, Tunan was definitely not one of them. Tunan was definitely the first candidate to be eliminated. Tunan said a lot and waited for Qingjun to respond. However, after waiting for a long time, Qingjun did not respond. His expression was on the verge of collapse. He asked gloomily, "Don't tell me. I'm really not on the list?" Qingjun's face was expressionless. He just glanced at him. The meaning in his eyes was obvious. How could he be on the list? Tunan cried out loud, oh God, my youth was wasted on a scumbag." If Wen Qian did not step on him, Tunan would probably have forced out a few tears. Even Xianxia could not stand it anymore. Fu Zicheng said proudly, "Needless to say, I'm definitely on the list." Nan, you should reflect on why you can't squeeze into the list. Don't think that you're so great. Just because you have a girlfriend. Don't you think so, boss? Qingjun glanced at him with the same gaze. Fu Zicheng? Jiao Fan, then. I should be on the list, right? Qingjun, the three men almost cried in each other's arms. They felt like their youth had been fed to a dog. Their faces were filled with unwillingness. They insisted on asking who Qingjun would choose. They made a lot of noise and woke up the children, who started crying again. Qingjun's cold eyes fell on the three of them. Tu Nan, Fu Zicheng, and Jiao Fan laughed in unison. Pretend I didn't say anything. Wan Qiuqiu rested in the hospital for a few days. After her body recovered, she returned home. Home was still the most comfortable. Even the quality of her sleep improved a lot. Wan Qiuqiu slept like a log. On the first day she returned home, everyone came to visit her with all kinds of nutritional products. The cabinet, which was already full, was piled up into a small mountain in the corner of the living room. With the experienced confinement nanny taking care of the children, Wan Qiuqiu did not have to worry. She could sleep well every day and had enough milk. She had just given birth, so her breasts were much fuller than usual. Even the cup size had increased. Wan Qiuqiu was not happy at all. She was already a little chubbier, so her breasts were bigger. It made her look bloated. She only thought about losing weight after a period of time. In contrast, although Qingjun agreed, he found all kinds of excuses to watch Wan Qiuqiu while she was breastfeeding. He could not take his eyes off her. Wan Qiuqiu glared at him and pulled down her collar to cover her beautiful body. You haven't named the child yet. Do you want me to decide? Qingjun said slowly, I think Xianxia is very good. Wan Qiuqiu sneered and did not forget to gently shake the child. You'd better not let me hear it a second time. Qingjun, who received the threatening signal, was silent. The child was very obedient. He slept in bed at night and was rarely troubled during the day. When he was teased, he would giggle. The more they looked at him, the cuter he was. Everyone loved him very much. During the day, the nanny took care of the child at home. At night, Wan Qiuqiu took care of the child. Basically, they did not have to worry about it. The child was sleeping soundly as usual. Wan Qiuqiu lay in bed and gradually fell asleep. Qingjun lay behind her. His arms slowly wrapped around her soft waist and touched her soft belly. It felt very good. His hand slowly slid up and his lips moved to Wan Qiuqiu's neck to kiss. Wan Qiuqiu's body had an indescribable milk fragrance. Her skin was white and tender. It was better nourished than before she gave birth. Perhaps because she was a mother, her whole person was much gentler. In addition, she had not been intimate with Qingjun for a long time. She unconsciously became a little emotional and let out a low gasp. Smelling the milk fragrance, Qingjun's Adam's apple moved up and down. His voice was a little hoarse. Is it okay? Wan Qiuqiu's cheeks were red. Her small earlobes were also red, which made her look even cuter. Yes. Without waiting for her to finish, he turned over and pressed her on the bed, moving up and down. At this moment, the child, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly cried out. His cries were so loud in the silent night. Qingjun wanted to kiss Wan Qiuqiu again, but Wan Qiuqiu slapped him down. She was mostly awake. Her face was still flushed. She gathered the uncovered clothes and buttoned them up. She pushed Qingjun away, got out of bed, and gently shook the child. Wan Qiuqiu was very patient. She shook the child and hummed softly. The noisy baby cried a few times and stopped. His little mouth was slightly open and he fell asleep again. There were still tears in the corners of his eyes, which made him look pitiful and lovable. Qingjun took the child and put him in the cradle. He asked solemnly, "Can we continue?" Wan Qiuqiu's face turned red again. Don't ask this kind of thing. Qingjun, who had received tacit consent, held her in his arms and continued to kiss her. The two of them kissed and rolled on the bed sheets. Just as the atmosphere was getting heated and Wan Qiuqiu's clothes were about to be taken off, the child suddenly whimpered. With the familiar prelude, he cried out. The two of them instantly cooled down. Wan Qiuqiu, Qingjun, Wan Qiuqiu quickly pushed Qingjun away, put on her clothes, and continued to coax the child. Usually, the child rarely made noise at night. She didn't know what was wrong with him today, but he kept making noise. Wan Qiuqiu couldn't do anything about it and could only continue to hum softly. However, the child fell asleep again after a few shakes. Wan Qiuqiu let out a long breath and gently put the child in the cradle. Qingjun supported the cradle with one hand and stared at the child in the cradle expressionlessly, trying to use the death stare to stop him from making trouble. The two of them waited patiently for a long time. The child slept soundly and showed no signs of waking up. Wan Qiuqiu silently breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. When she was about to drink water, Qingjun hugged her from behind and whispered, "Are you tired?" "I'm not tired. I'm okay." She was much more relaxed. It was just that the child occasionally cried at night. It was not a big deal. Qingjun kissed her temple. "You've worked hard." Wan Qiuqiu held his hand and turned her face away, leaving a chick-pecking kiss on the corner of Qingjun's lips. Her rare tender eyes made Qingjun's heart beat faster. He pressed Wan Qiuqiu on the bed and continued to do what he couldn't do. The familiar nightmarish whimpering sound rang out again. The child cried loudly. This time, without waiting for Wan Qiuqiu to get up, Qingjun picked up the child expressionlessly and patted him on the back while coaxing him. This time, the child couldn't stop crying. Wan Qiuqiu took the child and coaxed him for a long time, but he didn't stop crying. He didn't drink milk, his diapers were clean, he didn't have a fever, and there was nothing wrong with him. Wan Qiuqiu was so anxious that she just wanted to call the hospital to see what was going on. Qingjun picked up the child from Wan Qiuqiu's arms without saying a word and entered the study under Wan Qiuqiu's shocked questioning. He held the crying baby in one hand and opened the cabinet with the other and pulled out a cardboard box. Wan Qiuqiu, who was following behind him, was shocked. "What are you doing? What are you doing in the middle of the night?" "Qingjun, don't want him." "Wan Qiuqiu." The child cried until his whole body was red. His face was wrinkled and tears streamed down his face, making Wan Qiuqiu's heart ache. The cardboard box was padded with newspapers and towels. Qingjun pressed it with one hand and put the crying baby inside. A magical scene happened. The baby, who was crying just now, suddenly stopped crying. He smacked his lips in satisfaction and fell asleep. Wan Qiuqiu was stunned. He actually stopped crying. What kind of strange operation was this? She tentatively picked up the child. After a few seconds, the child faintly showed signs of crying. Wan Qiuqiu hurriedly put him back in the cardboard box and immediately restored his quiet and peaceful sleeping face. The study fell into an eerie silence. After a while, Wan Qiuqiu's face was full of disbelief. Does he think this is his nest? In contrast, Qingjun was very calm. Maybe. Wan Qiuqiu, letting the child sleep in a cardboard box always felt like mistreating the child. Fortunately, the cardboard box was spacious enough. Wan Qiuqiu laid out a few layers of soft cushions and placed a small pillow in the box. The child was placed in the cardboard box, wrapped in a small quilt, and placed next to the cradle. Wan Qiuqiu repeatedly confirmed that the child was sleeping comfortably, then sat by the bed resentfully. What kind of father and son was this? They were all different from normal people. If other people saw that their child could sleep so comfortably in a cardboard box, they might think that she was a stepmother. Thinking of this, Wan Qiuqiu was even more depressed. Qingjun didn't think so much. He squeezed next to Wan Qiuqiu and rubbed his chin against her neck. Wan Qiuqiu felt a little ticklish and couldn't help but laugh. He kissed her soft lips. In order not to wake the child, Wan Qiuqiu held back her voice the whole time. The sound of their slightly heavy breathing could be heard in the room. Wan Qiuqiu softened into a puddle of water and let Qingjun do whatever he wanted to her. Her body was extremely sensitive. It didn't take long for her to want to beg for mercy, but she couldn't push the man on top of her away. That night, Wan Qiuqiu was completely devoured. She was tormented until midnight. However, Qingjun still looked energetic and pulled her hand, wanting to continue. Wan Qiuqiu had to beg for mercy. After promising many unfair terms, Qingjun finally agreed. He kissed the tip of her nose and held her in his arms to sleep. Wan Qiuqiu didn't know what Qingjun said to the nanny. The nanny came in the afternoon so that Wan Qiuqiu wouldn't be so embarrassed. The child was awake during the day and didn't cry when sleeping in the cradle. His eyes were shining like two gems. Wan Qiuqiu teased him with small toys, which made the child giggle. The scene of mother and son being intimate was so harmonious. Qingjun watched from the side, and his eyes unconsciously softened. He suddenly felt that having a child was not a bad thing. Wan Qiuqiu called him, "Come here. Look how happy he is." Qingjun walked over and leaned over to look at the white and tender baby in the cradle. His facial features gradually grew, and the delicate outline of his facial features could be vaguely seen. Whether he looked like Wan Qiuqiu or Qingjun, he must be a good seed to bring disaster to the country and the people in the future. The child smiled at Qingjun, and his smiling eyes made him immediately think of Wan Qiuqiu's moving appearance when she smiled. Qingjun reached out and touched his soft little face. The baby, who was laughing just now, suddenly curled his lips and cried. "Qingjun," Wan Qiuqiu watched him pick up the cardboard box. "What are you going to do?" "Qingjun, find a good family." Although Qingjun was always making a fuss, Wan Qiuqiu was really afraid that he would be angry one day and really send the child away. The father and son seemed to be born to be at odds. When they saw her, they would always grin, but when they saw Qingjun, they would always cry in a few seconds. She really didn't know what kind of relationship they had in their previous life to have such an ill-fated relationship. Every time she saw Qingjun holding the cardboard box and looking unhappy, Wan Qiuqiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, the child was very excited when he saw the cardboard box, as if he had seen his family. Qingjun was even more unhappy. This caused the husband and wife to almost forget about naming the child. Wan Qiuqiu listed the names she thought of one by one and insisted that Qingjun think of a few names as well. Qingjun sat on the sofa and ate grapes. He said slowly, "I think, you're not allowed to talk about Xianxia." Qingjun, "Okay." Wan Qiuqiu looked at the few names she listed and felt that they were too elegant and delicate. She hoped that the child would be lively and active in the future and not always be like Qingjun. It would be better for the child to have a more cheerful personality. Qingjun glanced at the rows of names on the paper and suggested, "Shall we name the soldiers and generals?" Wan Qiuqiu, "Please don't be so casual." Only Qingjun could come up with the name of the soldiers and generals. The two of them sat on the sofa and pondered for a moment. Qingjun snapped his fingers. "I got it." Wan Qiuqiu's eyes lit up. "What is it?" "Qinglidua, it means a lot of happiness." Wan Qiuqiu, "Qingjun, question mark." Her death stare was gloomy. "Don't think that I don't know that you're thinking of Yakult. I'll call myself Qinghaha. Wouldn't that be happier?" "Qingjun, the name is not bad." The two of them thought for a long time but could not come up with a satisfactory name. After thinking about it, it was not as smooth and easy to remember as Qingjun's Qinglidua. However, this name was really too casual. If other people heard it, they would probably think of Yakult. Wan Qiuqiu did not want everyone to joke about the child's name when he went to school in the future. When she was a student, she had been given many nicknames because of her name. Some of them were malicious and had made Wan Qiuqiu sad. Therefore, the child's name must not be too straightforward like hers. After another round of discussion, finally, the two of them decided on the final name. They changed duo to duo. The heavens would call the teacher Muduo. It had the meaning of warning and was also meaningful and easy to remember. Hence, Qinglidua, under the care of his parents? He gradually grew up under their care. The first month of kindergarten. If one were to ask who was the happiest child in kindergarten, everyone would definitely point to Qinglidua. Qinglidua had the best-looking parents in the world. This was a fact that everyone acknowledged on the first day of school. Originally, they were not familiar with each other. In addition, Qinglidua always acted very cool in front of strangers. He was so cool that the teachers in kindergarten liked him very much. However, what everyone did not know was that in order to not go to kindergarten, Qinglidua cried until he was out of breath the night before. He acted coquettishly, acted pitiful, and went on a hunger strike in an attempt to change his mother's mind. When he thought of not being able to see Xianxia for the entire day, he cried even harder. Qingledua was very, very attached to Xianxia. He would often start crying when Qingjun hugged Xianxia, as if his home was being invaded. However, Xianxia would always stand by the child's side and ask him to move aside. Qingjun wanted to call Guyu several times and ask him to bring this child over to accompany Guyu's twins. Xianxia comforted him for a long time and racked her brains before Qingledua gradually calmed down. He wiped his tears and looked aggrieved. He knew that acting pitiful would not soften Xiao's heart. In contrast, as the father, Qingjun did not say anything on the surface. He turned around and sent a few super big red packets to the department staff group. Everyone was overjoyed when they got the red packets. Although they did not know why, the happiness of the rich was probably something they could not imagine. Whether they were in a good mood or not, they could casually give out red packets for fun. No one expected that the next day, many children would bring their favorite toys to Qingledua, begging him to use their favorite toys in exchange for a day's time with their parents. Compared to the soft bun at home, Qingledua sat coolly on the chair and ignored everyone. He did not want a single toy. Everyone was envious. They thought that he must have countless toys, which was why he was not interested in the treasures in everyone's hands. In their hearts, Qingledua had a house as big as a castle, a private playground, and a mountain of toys. Some children even whispered to others that their parents said that Qingledua was as rich as a prince. As a result, Qingledua really became the well-deserved little prince in the kindergarten. He was still very young, and his cheeks were round and chubby, making his pair of peach blossom eyes look more innocent and cute. He was only 3 or 4 years old, but he already had a handsome and exquisite appearance. Other than the pair of eyes that resembled her mother, the rest of her facial features were 70% to 80% similar to Qingjun's. Xianxia had even taken out a photo of Qingjun back then to compare. It was as if Qingjun had taken the photo himself. Whenever Qingjun sat with the children, they looked like a pair of exquisite Russian nesting dolls. They were adorable no matter how one looked at them. In order to record some interesting trifles, Xianxia opened a small account and drew the daily life of the father and son into a 4-panel comic. Unexpectedly, the comic became popular. Everyone affectionately called the daily life of the father and son, which made Xianxia not know whether to laugh or cry. As for the excessive things Qingjun had done, Xianxia could smile and pat her chest to express her gratitude, so much so that it was hard to imagine. Back to a certain day 2 years ago. Xianxia went out shopping, leaving only Qingjun at home to take care of the child. The child, who was only a few months old, had just learned how to crawl, but he could only crawl backward like a mouse. He also ran quite fast. When Qingjun was not paying attention, the child was stuck under the sofa and began to cry. He took the child out from under the sofa and put him in a small cardboard box. After a while, he crawled under the coffee table and could not get out. Qingjun picked up the child expressionlessly and put him in the cardboard box. He was on the verge of going berserk. "Don't crawl." He pointed at the child and warned him. He did not know if the child understood. After a while, Qingjun came over to take a look with a lollipop in his mouth. The child was lying peacefully in the cardboard box, blinking his big eyes and staring at the lollipop in his hand with bright eyes. He showed a longing look and stretched out his hand, trying to grab Qingjun's lollipop. Seeing that he could not eat it, he was about to cry again. Qingjun was lost in thought. The lollipop was finished, and there was not much left in his mouth. It was too unhygienic to give it to a child. He stood there for a moment and thought of an excellent idea. When Xianxia came back, she was carrying many bags. Qingjun helped her take the bags. Xianxia asked, "By the way, where's the baby?" "In the cardboard box." Xianxia, the cardboard box had become Xiaocheng's second home. She could not stop him, and she was gradually getting used to it. When the cold air on her body dissipated, she washed her hands and went over to pick up the child. However, she saw Qingledua lying in the cardboard box, holding a pair of disposable chopsticks and chewing on them non-stop. His saliva was everywhere, and he looked like he was enjoying it. This scene was as bleak as it could be. Xiaoxia's face was cold and she asked Qingjun to give an explanation. Qingjun was not straightforward but strong. The chopsticks are stained with honey. It's sweet and healthy. The direct result of this incident was, after Qingjun ate healthy meals for a week, he sincerely expressed his wrongdoings and promised Ruan Qiuqiu that he would not do it again. Time went back to a certain night a year ago. Ruan Qiuqiu was lying in bed and sleeping soundly. She did not notice that the person next to her quietly got out of bed and went to the living room. He quietly took out a few bags of snacks from a few hidden corners and sat on the sofa quietly. He picked up a potato chip and put it in his mouth, trying to use softening tactics so that Ruan Qiuqiu could not hear the crunching sound of the chips. Needless to say, the feeling of eating snacks in secret was much more delicious than eating them openly. There were still a few bags of snacks piled up on the sofa. He planned to quietly finish them as usual, brush his teeth quietly, and go back to bed with Ruan Qiuqiu to continue sleeping. This was a perfect night. At this moment, in the dark living room, Qingjun keenly noticed that the door of Ruan Qiuqiu's room was slowly opening. The thick curtains did not allow a trace of light to enter. Only the slow opening of the gloomy door seemed to be fanned by the devil's breath. It made one's hair stand on end unconsciously. Qingjun's body stiffened. Under his frozen gaze, a twisted figure wriggled and crawled out step by step. Its posture was extremely twisted and strange. He crawled in front of Qingjun, raised his head, and looked at the snacks in his hand. His tender face was full of desire. "I want to eat too." Qingjun flatly refused. "No. Or I'll tell Mom." Qingjun. Since then, the night snack team had changed from one person to two. They had successfully gained a new member. The above was Mr. Qingjun's oral account. According to him, a 2-year-old child was cunning and naughty. While threatening Qingjun to sue Ruan Qiuqiu, he would also observe the situation of various enemies and help Qingjun hide things from each other. Ruan Qiuqiu, who caught him red-handed, stared at the innocent Qingjun and asked, "Do you think I'll believe you?" "Qingjun, let me explain." Before he could finish his words, the soft and tender Qinglidua hugged his mother's leg. With tears in his eyes, he begged in a childish voice, "Mommy, hug." Ruan Qiuqiu's heart was about to melt. Originally, she wanted to criticize the father and son for eating snacks in the middle of the night. One was an instigator, and the other was an accomplice. Neither of them was any better. When Qinglidua called out, Ruan Qiuqiu's heart was filled with love. She kissed his face a few times, hugged her son, and continued to reprimand Qingjun. Qingjun lowered his head and admitted his mistake. However, he glanced at Qinglidua from the corner of his eyes. The frightened Qinglidua pursed his lips. "Daddy is scolding me." Ruan Qiuqiu raised her eyebrows. "Qingjun." Qingjun, he saw Qinglidua smiling secretly in Ruan Qiuqiu's arms. The father and son were originally at odds, but they reached a perfect agreement on eating secretly. Faced with the pitiful and helpless gazes of the two foodies when they were caught stealing food, Ruan Qiuqiu really wanted to run away from home. She changed her clothes angrily and went out. When she left, she didn't forget to take the trash downstairs. Ruan Qiuqiu wandered outside the door a few times. Suddenly, she didn't know where to go. She ordered food from a cake shop downstairs and angrily ate 2 small cakes. The afternoon flew by. Ruan Qiuqiu angrily packed cakes, egg tarts, and cream puffs for them and went home angrily. She really didn't expect that Qingjun didn't call her for a few hours. He was indeed a dog of a man. Ruan Qiuqiu walked downstairs and saw 2 people sitting on the steps, one big and one small. The 2 of them were like abandoned stray dogs. They looked up at Ruan Qiuqiu and didn't dare to come close for fear that Ruan Qiuqiu would be angry. This made her feel less angry. Ruan Qiuqiu's expression was cold and hard. "What are you doing downstairs? Acting pitiful?" Qingjun said, "I wanted to look for you, but I forgot to take my phone when I went out. I went back to get my phone and found that I didn't take my keys." Ruan Qiuqiu was speechless. So these 2 guys just sat there until now. She really had to hand it to the 2 of them. Qingjun carried Xiaoqing, who was already asleep. Ruan Qiuqiu held Qingjun's hand as the family of 3 went up the stairs. Qingjun was silent for a moment and said, "I thought you didn't want me anymore." Ruan Qiuqiu laughed. "How could that be? But when I thought of Qinglidua, I knew you definitely wouldn't leave." Wan Qiuqiu stopped in her tracks. She held Qingjun's hand. The two of them stood on the stairs and looked at each other. Wan Qiuqiu looked at him very seriously, her pair of dark eyes reflecting Qingjun's face. Wan Qiuqiu said, "Whether Xiaoqing is here or not, I can't bear to leave you." Even though they had been married for many years, Qingjun still felt insecure about her. Wan Qiuqiu was very patient to comfort his emotions, and there was no exception every time. Hearing Wan Qiuqiu's words, Qingjun's heart skipped a beat. A strange light flickered in his eyes, and he leaned forward to kiss her lips. This kiss was gentle, and it was enough to move her. If Qinglidua hadn't rubbed his eyes and asked in a daze that he seemed to smell the little cake, Qingjun would have been able to let this gentle kiss stay for a longer time. In the evening, the father and son sat on the sofa and ate snacks. Fresh cream cake, hot egg tarts, puffs, and beef floss. Xiaobei ate happily. Qinglidua especially loved egg tarts, but the habit taught him since he was young was not to snatch to eat. He had to share with others in moderation and thank the people who brought him delicious food. He kissed Wan Qiuqiu and said in a soft voice, "Mom, thank you." Wan Qiuqiu quickly kissed him back and hugged the little doe in her arms. Only then did she let go of him in satisfaction. Qingjun imitated her and leaned forward to say, "Qiuqiu, thank you." He waited patiently, as if he was waiting for a prize. He was just short of pressing his handsome face against Wan Qiuqiu's lips. Wan Qiuqiu was speechless. She kissed Qingjun's cheek in amusement. She was amused by his cute thoughts. Qingjun said that he didn't like Qinglidua eating his food, but he waited for Qinglidua to eat all the little pastries that he liked to eat. After Qinglidua's stomach was round, he dealt with the rest of the food. "Ah, right." Wan Qiuqiu said, "I have something to do at the studio tomorrow, so I can't go to the kindergarten. The kindergarten is holding a parent-child activity. You should go." Qingjun had never participated in a parent-child activity before. He was stunned for a moment and looked at Wan Qiuqiu. During the last parent-child activity, Qingjun was busy working overtime and couldn't go because of a traffic jam. At that time, he seemed to have told Wan Qiuqiu that he would go next time. Qingjun fell into deep thought. Wan Qiuqiu said, "Don't try to find an excuse. Don't even think about it." Qingjun said, "Ah, I've been seen through." She had been with Qingjun for so many years. How could she not know what Qingjun was thinking? Wan Qiuqiu said faintly, "Also, I advise you to be prepared." Qingjun, ? All the little girls in the kindergarten want to be his girlfriend. Qingjun. The next day. Both father and son had dark clouds above their heads. Their faces were expressionless. One sat in the driver's seat while the other sat in the back. Their solemn and gloomy expressions were unusually synchronized. Qinglidua didn't have the strength to be soft in front of Qingjun. His face was ruthless and cold. "I want my mother to accompany me." Qingjun held the steering wheel with one hand and said slowly, "Do you think I don't want to?" Qinglidua, Qingjun, sure enough, there was nothing to talk about between the two men. The appearance of the father and son caused a sensation in the kindergarten. The little girls in the next class begged their parents to come over to play. Several teachers unconsciously blushed in the face of Qingjun. When they came back to their senses, they hurriedly persuaded the parents to bring their children back to their classes. After a lot of hardships, discipline was finally organized. There was an indescribably awkward atmosphere between the culprits and the father until the competition began and they could move freely. Qingjun sat in a daze in his chair. Qinglidua reluctantly prepared for the competition under the teacher's instructions. At this time, a few little girls timidly walked up and looked at Qingjun. They asked shyly, "Grandpa, where did Grandma go?" Qingjun, ? As if realizing his confusion, the little girls chattered and said with red faces, "It's okay, please forgive us for being rude. Please take care of us in the future." Qingjun? After they left, Qingjun immediately sent a message to Wan Qiuqiu. "Qingjun, I want to leave early." Wan Qiuqiu replied quickly, "Try it." Qinglidua's face was full of displeasure. It was supposed to be a fun competition with Wan Qiuqiu, but now, his expectations were dashed. He walked up to Qingjun unhappily and said, "Later, you'll have to carry me and run back and step on the balloon." Qingjun clicked his tongue. He was even more impatient than Qinglidua. He subconsciously wanted to refuse, but the image of Ruan Qiuqiu's angry face appeared in his mind. He swallowed his words. Qingjun stood up with one hand in his pocket. "Let's go." Qinglidua said, "You're not allowed to be negative when facing the competition. It'll be very embarrassing." Qingjun, who was actually exposed by this little brat, slowly glanced at him and decided to add Qinglidua to his blacklist. In the competition, the contestants had to carry their children and run back to the original place. They had to crush the balloons tied to their feet. They were required to not step on the balloons while running. Other families would hold their children in their arms, but Qingjun and his son were exceptionally outlandish. Qingjun carried Qinglidua on his shoulder like he was carrying rice. Although this posture was not very beautiful, the existence of the two still aroused a warm response from everyone. Even the opponent's family could not help but applaud and cheer for them, almost forgetting that they were still in a competition. A little girl's scream came from the corner. "Ah, you can do it, hubby. Father-in-law, you can do it. Our Leduo is too handsome." In an instant, it was as if the entire amusement park had become a large-scale fashion show for the two of them. Qinglidua, who was carried on his shoulder, refused to hug Qingjun. He said with a cool expression, "Don't be surprised, I have a lot of fangirls." As soon as his voice fell, the referee announced the start of the competition. Qingjun carried him and ran forward. The violent shaking of his body scared Qingjun so much that his little face turned pale. He hurriedly hugged Qingjun like an octopus and felt the wind blowing past him. Qingjun was not careless at all. He ran back and forth and stepped on the balloons. His movements were fast and neat, and he won first place amidst the screams of a group of little girls. Qinglidua was stunned. He originally thought that Qingjun would slowly finish the competition. He did not expect that Qingjun would work harder than him and actually win first place. Qingjun stood in place, hiding his achievements and fame. If he did not show some proof to Ruan Qiuqiu, it was very likely that he would not be able to get on that big soft bed. If he said he would win the competition, he would win the competition. He could not be vague about his attitude. In the next few events, Qingjun performed very well. Qinglidua cooperated with Qingjun. He was sweating profusely, but he was unusually happy. Amidst the cheers of a group of fangirls, the two returned to the car. The door was tightly shut, cutting off the noise of the outside world. Qinglidua held a pile of prizes, the corners of his cold lips slightly raised. He looked out the window and pretended to be mature. "You did well. As a father." This time, Qingjun did not say anything strange. He sat in the driver's seat for a moment and said, "Do you want to eat a small cake?" Qinglidua was stunned and subconsciously nodded. "Okay." Qingjun drove the car. The father and son were silent all the way. Qinglidua probably did not expect Qingjun to take the initiative to invite him. The corners of his lips could not help but curl up until Qingjun parked the car by the side of the road. They often came to this cake shop. It was not far from their home. The cakes in the shop were selling very well. Some kinds would be out of stock in the afternoon. Qinglidua loved mango layer cakes the most. He was very calm on the surface, but in fact, he was secretly praying that there would be more cakes. The two got out of the car and entered the shop with the wind chime. There were two people in front of them in line. As soon as the father and son appeared, they attracted everyone's attention. Everyone whispered and looked at them in amazement. The boss of the shop was much calmer. He smiled at the two of them. "Hello, what do you want?" "I want." The two in front of them chose the small cakes they wanted to eat. Not long after, a few more people lined up behind Qingjun and his son. They happened to be adults with children. Qinglidua nervously stared at the mango layer cakes in the insulated cabinet. There was only one left. Fortunately, the people in front of him did not order this cake. When it was Qingledua's turn, he pointed at the mango layer cake. "Hello, Auntie. I want this." He ordered the mango layer cake and a few small cakes. They were all Ruan Qiuqiu's favorites. Qingjun stood at the side and waited to pay. At this moment, the little boy behind him cried and pointed at Qinglidua. I want this too. Sorry, there's only one left. If you want to eat it, come back tomorrow. The little boy was shorter than Qinglidua. Did he hear that? He sat on the ground and began to cry. His parents did not know what to do. Qinglidua looked at the packed mango layer cake. He was reluctant to part with it. He looked at the other party hesitantly. Give it to me, give it to me. Probably used to being so noisy, the little boy cried and shouted. The parents looked at Qinglidua with hope. He pursed his lips and decided to give the cake to the other party. His parents had taught him to be harmonious and friendly. He could not snatch things. He had to take care of his younger siblings. Qinglidua looked at Qingjun. Qingjun carried a bag of cakes and walked straight to the glass door. He said without looking back, let's go. Qinglidua, ? The crying child froze for a moment before crying even harder. The child's father couldn't help but mutter, as a father, you don't even set a good example for your child to be modest. Qingjun stopped in his tracks. He slowly turned his face and glanced at them. The little boy stopped crying and looked expectantly at Qingjun walking towards them. Then, he hooked his finger on Qinglidua's hat and said, what did I teach you? Qinglidua blinked his eyes blankly. He lowered his eyes. His voice was so clear in the silent cake shop that everyone present heard it clearly. Even if you don't give in sometimes, don't feel guilty. You're just a child. Qingjun's words were polite enough. What he meant was that they were all children of about the same age. Why were they insensible if they did not give in? Who were they to him? After saying that, he hooked Qinglidua's hat and brought him out of the cake shop, leaving the couple looking at each other with faces as dark as the bottom of a pot. The child wanted to continue crying, but he did not know that his parents had embarrassed him. He was unhappy and grabbed him and slapped him a few times on the butt. Why are you so insensible? You only know how to cry all day. The child really started to wail this time. The father and son got into the car. Qinglidua sat in the back, still in a daze. Qingjun fastened his seatbelt and said slowly, it's right to be modest, but if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, there's no need to be polite. Qinglidua's eyes lit up, and his answer was unusually straightforward. I got it. The two of them were silent for a while. Qingjun said, when I won an award in school, my mother would always bring me to buy a cake. Qinglidua asked carefully, is it grandma? He was not like other people who had grandparents. Qinglidua had been ignorant since he was very young. He knew that they had gone to another world, so he did not dare to mention his parents. He thought that it must have been very difficult for his parents to live without their parents. Qingjun nodded. He said, you have to study hard in school, but you also have to be happy. If you have any worries, you can talk to me. Qingjun had heard this sentence countless times since he was young. He could still see that gentle smiling face in his mind, always encouraging him. Every time he heard this sentence, Qingjun was unusually satisfied. He thought that maybe he should encourage Qinglidua like his mother. Qinglidua's young face was full of seriousness. Just like Qingjun's response back then, he nodded and said, okay. Ever since Qinglidua was able to sleep alone, Qingjun's study was occupied and transformed into Qinglidua's room. There were all kinds of strange cartoon stickers in the room. Every time he entered Qinglidua's room, he looked at the study that he had used for more than 10 years and wanted to beat Qinglidua up. In addition to the wardrobe, bookcase, toy area, desk, Qinglidua's room was a soft small bed. Although he looked cold on the outside, he was actually covered with Peppa Pig sheets. The most important thing was that there was a shabby small cardboard box at the head of the bed. Every time Qinglidua was unhappy because of the Cold War with his father, he would shrink in the small cardboard box and wait for Xianxia to come and comfort him. He treated the cardboard box as his most important souvenir. Every time he asked Xianxia why she had such a cardboard box, Xianxia would laugh and kiss him hard, saying that it was because he was an express delivery from the heavens and left the cardboard box behind. Because of this, Qinglidua wrote a childish essay called Love is Like a Cardboard Box and won the first prize in the first grade essay competition. Xianxia, who knew the truth, was speechless. Qinglidua did not know why every time his uncles and aunties came to their house, they would stifle their laughter while looking at the awards on the wall. Especially Uncle Tuesday. He was already so old, but he still looked indecent. When he became a father, he was always beaten up by Auntie Wen. This made Qinglidua suddenly feel that his father had some status in the family. Uncle Jiao Fan and beautiful auntie came a few times, but they came the least. It was said that they lived abroad. Uncle Fu Zicheng was still single. Every time they gathered, they could not poke at his sore spot. Otherwise, he would definitely cry. Qinglidua had also met Uncle Guyu. He always felt that his father did not like Uncle Guyu very much. However, Uncle Guyu's twin sisters were really too cute. They were innocent and gullible, and they were willing to share anything delicious and fun with Qinglidua. Qinglidua only wanted sweet candies and was not interested in little girls. When they said that they wanted to play house and pretend to be a couple, he coldly rejected them. His mother said that she was more of a dog than his father, which made Qinglidua unable to understand. What kind of adjective was a dog? A heavy snow fell in this steel jungle. The moment Ruan Qiuqiu opened the curtains, the glaring white snow made her subconsciously squint her eyes. She rubbed her eyes uncomfortably. It's actually snowing. As soon as her voice fell, she heard the sound of footsteps coming from the living room. Sure enough, Qinglidua knocked on the door and rushed in, asking for a hug from Ruan Qiuqiu. He was already a child in primary school, but when he came home, he was still a little doe with a childish voice. Who could refuse such a pretty little face begging for a hug? Ruan Qiuqiu hugged him in her arms, kissed his face, and said with a smile, "Did you sleep well?" Qinglidua did not let go of her arms and said softly, "Mama, let's go make a snowman, okay?" "Okay. Let's eat something first before going down." Qinglidua got a response and kissed her. He happily went to the bathroom to wash up. Qingjun, who was lying in bed, sat up lazily. The soft quilt slid down, revealing his naked upper body. There was a little hickey left by Ruan Qiuqiu on his collarbone. Ruan Qiuqiu blushed and her heart beat faster. She walked up to him and handed him his clothes. "Put it on quickly. Don't let the child see." Qingjun grabbed her wrist and pulled Ruan Qiuqiu into his arms. Ruan Qiuqiu exclaimed softly. The handsome face in front of her was enlarged, and he planted a gentle kiss on her lips. "You haven't said good morning to me yet." "Mama, it's mine," Qinglidua's voice suddenly rang out, and the door was pushed open. Ruan Qiuqiu subconsciously pressed Qingjun under the quilt, but in Qinglidua's eyes, his mother stuffed his father under the quilt. She must be very angry and wanted to beat him up. Qinglidua was stunned and smiled. "Mama, you can do it." He would come back later. Ruan Qiuqiu watched the child leave. Qingjun, who was still cooped up in the quilt, said, "I think we should move to a bigger house." Ruan Qiuqiu. Maybe. This house could no longer accommodate the three of them. After breakfast, they wrapped themselves up tightly and went downstairs. They said they were going to make a snowman, but they found that there was not enough snow, and the effect of the snowman might not be very good. Qinglidua was a little disappointed. In order to make him happy, Ruan Qiuqiu threw a small snowball over. Qinglidua cried out and was instantly happy, and he threw the snowball back. The two of them played back and forth happily. After a while, Ruan Qiuqiu was a little tired and sat on the ground to rest. "You two have fun too." Qinglidua looked hopefully at Qingjun. Qingjun's face was expressionless. He picked up the snow on the ground, held it tightly, and threw it at Qinglidua. Qinglidua's reaction was very fast. He dodged and threw a snowball at Qingjun. Such a harmonious scene made Ruan Qiuqiu feel very happy. She picked up her phone to record this beautiful moment. Coincidentally, Qinglidua's snowball hit Qingjun's clothes, and white flowers bloomed on the black down jacket. Qinglidua giggled happily and wanted to run after hitting him. Qingjun picked up a piece of snow. In Ruan Qiuqiu's phone camera, she only saw Qingjun's snowball accurately hit the back of Qinglidua's head. Like a kite with a broken string, Qinglidua, who was running happily just a moment ago, lost his strength and fell into a pile of snow. Qinglidua, dead. Qingjun, I won. Game over. Ruan Qiuqiu, who was holding her phone, she knew that Qingjun would not do anything good. The family of three returned home and changed their clothes. Qinglidua turned on the TV, and with the familiar music, a cartoon started to play. What Wan Qiuqiu did not know was that although Qinglidua did not say anything on the surface, his heart was filled with pride whenever his classmates bought all kinds of stationery and talked about their favorite cartoon. His mother was involved in the production of this cartoon. He even had an exclusive edition of the signed pictorial. In Qinglidua's heart, his mother's drawing was superb, his mother's cooking was the best, his mother was the most beautiful woman in the world, and his mother was omnipotent. As for Qingjun, oh, he was just a man with a little money. The outside world talked about how powerful the Jiaqing boss was and how much everyone admired Qinglidua's father. However, in his eyes, there was only Qingjun. Every day, he followed behind Wan Qiuqiu like a large golden retriever asking to be petted. He did not look like a man at all, Qinglidua thought as he asked Wan Qiuqiu to kiss him in a childish voice. Put aside the dignity of a man first. I'll pick it up later. He meant what he said. Qingjun stared at him with a death stare. Sure enough, there was not enough homework in school. On Qinglidua's birthday, his uncle and auntie came to celebrate with him. Wan Qiuqiu ordered a huge cake and made a table of delicious dishes. After so many years, the number of freeloaders had increased rapidly, and the house could not accommodate them. After cutting the cake, Wan Qiuqiu's stomach suddenly felt a little nauseous and she retched. Qingjun reacted quickly and asked, "What's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" "I don't know," Wen Qian, who was next to her, asked with a strange look in his eyes. "Don't tell me you're pregnant again." Wan Qiuqiu calmed down and thought for a moment before she realized that she had not had her period for a long time. She did not know which part of the contraceptive system had gone wrong. She looked up and looked at Qingjun nervously and expectantly. Qingjun was stunned. After a while, he said slowly, "Let's move to another house." Forever unfinished, end of chapter 120. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video to support the channel.